Well, there goes the neighborhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to our very, very special show. What show is it? What are we doing live on this Saturday morning, June 11th, 2022? Well, I do believe we've got a very special show for you. That sounds like this. That is the intro to a little show called Funny Girl. That's actually the London production of a couple of years ago that was brought in a slightly different way to New York as part of this Broadway season. And we start with that bit of music because it is our 17th annual Dave's Gone By Total Theater Broadway Tony Show, featuring experts giving their picks and predictions. We'll be talking with Tony-nominated set designer Adam Rigg. He did The Skin of Our Teeth over at Lincoln Center. I actually have a lot of the playbills for that, so let's just see, just to prove I have them. Here it is. Actually, it's also behind me up there. Plus, we will have Rabbi Sal Solomon offering his Rabbinical reflection, a mini sermon about Broadway and the Jews in it this season. It's all a mix. It's a mishmash. Plus, we'll have some trivia questions for you. But before we even get to that, we have our very first expert, our very first guest, waiting in the neighborhood to come join us and talk about a category of the Tonys. He's, let me just get to him. Where is he? He's Bob Cashill. Let's here, oh, we've got him. And Bob, let's see, you're connecting to audio. Bob Cashill writes for Pop Dose, which, tell us a little bit about Pop Dose. To be honest, I haven't heard of it, but I need you to unmute your mic, Bob Cashill.
I think we're good.
Hey, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks so much, Dave. It's nice to see you. Yeah, Pop Dose has been around for about 15 years. It's a pop culture website. It's got lots of stuff about music, film, and I cover theater for the site. So yes.
Oh, congratulations! So let's get right to the theater. Let's get right to Broadway Tony nominations, because I've asked you, what I'm asking all the critics who are joining us today on the program, is to take a category, and we've done this for years, folks, of breaking it down, who's nominated, who should have been nominated, who wasn't, who Bob thinks might win, and who Bob hopes will win. Your category is, let's see, it's the lead actor in a musical. I'm going to read them out. Billy Crystal, Mr. Saturday Night, Miles Frost for MJ, Hugh Jackman in The Music Man, Rob McClure as Mrs. Doubtfire, and Jaquel Spivey, I hope I am pronouncing his name right, for A Strange Loop. Bob Cashill, your thoughts?
Well, I think you've got a really interesting category here. And to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. You've got two Tony winning Broadway veterans in Billy Crystal and Hugh Jackman. You've got two guys making their debuts, spectacular debuts, Miles Frost and Jaquel Spivey. And then you've got a guy who's just terrific, Rob McClure, who just can't catch a break. The poor guy, he's a great actor, he's terrific, but he's never really been in too many hit shows. And Mrs. Doubtfire, the show that he's nominated for, has already closed. So I think that probably closes off his chances for a win. However, I do think at some point he'll find the show that he needs, or a TV show or something. He's very talented. I mean, he's just a multi-talented guy, and it's good to see him nominated. But leaving him aside for now, I guess we've got to look at the other four. And I would say that, Billy Crystal is, he's taken his own film, Mr. Saturday Night, and readapted it for the stage. I think he's done a terrific job with it, actually. Some people would say that maybe it just needed to be a stand-up show, frankly, just him doing the movie, not singing or dancing. And he and David Paymer, who was an Oscar nominee for the film, he's also in the show. These guys are not really singer-dancer types, let's put it that way, but they're supported by some excellent people. Randy Graff playing the wife, his long, suffering wife, and Shoshana Bean playing his long-suffering daughter. They're terrific. And I think they carry the day. It's really great watching the two of them, try to sing and dance and doing a good job. Then, of course, we've got Hugh Jackman. I mean, the king of Broadway. Everyone was looking forward to The Music Man, of course. You know, it's a show that people love, and it's an actor that people love to see. Reviews, not so kind necessarily. They felt he kind of missed it a little bit. He wasn't the Harold Hill of anyone's dreams necessarily. I think Robert Preston really cast a long shadow over this role. If you've seen the film and you remember the film from 1962, it's perfect. Basically, it's him, and it's perfect. I think
I
he
thought,
came up a little bit short, but I think
well,
he is still really good.
I thought Craig Bierko did a fabulous job about 15,
Yeah,
20
20 years ago. And again, he wasn't a star. He was, you know, I think a star brings certain expectations. And I think while Hugh Jackman brings a lot of I mean, he's dancing a lot more for sure in this. Maybe, I don't know. I saw it twice. And I did think the second time he was actually better, more comfortable. He and Sutton Foster seemed to have a nice chemistry. It was post, you know, the opening. So I think they're both a little bit more relaxed. So we shall see. But that does bring us to the two newcomers, Miles Frost from MJ the Musical. That would be Michael Jackson to you. He did an impersonation and he parlayed that into a Broadway debut. That seems like something that could be kind of a stunt or a gimmick, but no, he's the real deal. This guy is fantastic. I mean, he's got the moves, but he's also got the personality. The show itself, it's cautious. I mean, it doesn't want to get into some of the stickier areas of, you know, Michael Jackson's life. It kind of ends.
Yeah.
Exactly. But given all that, I think he's fantastic in the show. I mean, without him, there's no show, frankly. I mean, if you don't have a Michael Jackson for your Michael Jackson show, you're not going to have any kind of a show. But he delivers, I think, in spades. Terrific. And then we come to our final person in the category. We have Jokel Spivey. This guy blew me away. I mean, I knew what the show was. I had not seen it. When I saw it, I was knocked for a loop, not a strange loop, just a loop, period. It's a hard show to describe what it is, but he is in it the entire time. I mean, I think maybe a couple scenes he's out of it, but he dominates. It's 95 or 100 minutes long. He is singing and moving and doing everything. It's a tremendous performance. Again, it's a hard show to explain. You know, he's an usher, named Usher, who ushers at at the Lion King. He's writing his own musical. He's trying to find his own way in the world. He's gay. He's having some problems with his conscience and, you know, the different people who kind of live inside his head who are kind of like giving him all kinds of trouble. But it's dynamic. I mean, what he's doing up there is just incredible. One issue is that he has missed a number of performances. I think he says he has severe allergies, and I think it might be difficult for Tony voters to see him necessarily. They have to see everyone, but I'm hoping that they do, because I do think that of all those performances, and again, they're all, you know, really good. I think he was really the best. I mean, he just makes that show. I think he's terrific. What a
So
talent.
It would be your choice to win. And
yeah,
if
absolutely.
People see him, he will win. But if he doesn't, do you think it could be taken by him?
You know, that's a good question. Will they go for the two veterans, or will they go for Miles Frost, who I think did a great job? I'm going to say it's either Billy Crystal or Miles Frost, and that's not really helpful to you. I'm saying Jokel Spivey is number one. Number two, I can't really make up my mind, but I'm going to say, let's go for Miles Frost.
Let's go for Miles. Now, let me ask you, was anybody egregiously overlooked that you can think of in this category? Like should have been, could have been?
In this category, I think they got it right, actually, to be honest. I don't think there's anyone egregiously overlooked. I mean, you have a number of other musicals, but I do think in this category, when I saw the nominations, I thought this is a pretty satisfying category. I'm glad they didn't just, I mean, Mr. Saturday Night it's the show, it's the movie, but he's expanded the movie, and again, he's brought something different to it. So I'm glad Billy Crystal, you know, got the nod for it too. I think he's really good.
Now, let me ask you, Bob Cashill, for the whole season, on Broadway, off Broadway, I assume you've seen tons of things. What was your absolute favorite production of the season?
Well, I would say, again, on Broadway, there was a production of a play called Trouble in Mind that was done earlier in the season by a woman named Alice Childress. It was supposed to open on Broadway in the 1950s. It did not. And it comes to us again, almost as a time capsule, except as a story of a Black actor's life. It seems like it was written yesterday. It's an astonishingly good show by Alice Childress, and with a wonderful Tony-nominated performance by LaChanze and also Chuck Cooper, who's also a Tony nominee. I thought that was just brilliant. I thought it was just it was seeing something that was unearthed, but seemed perfectly fresh as well, perfectly preserved. And I hope it has a half-life on, moving on. Also a play called English, which was done off-Broadway by the Atlantic Theater Company. This is the story of Iranian students learning how to speak English. A lovely, delicate play that I thought was just terrific. Musical-wise, I loved Six. I'm glad to see that Six is up for all those nominations. I would say that Six is a show that argues for a best ensemble category in the Tonys. I think that they're all terrific. And I think that for several shows actually this season, even maybe A Strange Loop, as good as Jaquel Spivey is, the other people around him are also fantastic. Lehman Trilogy has 3 wonderful performers who are nominated, but they form a real ensemble. I mean, without one, there's no show. So I think perhaps someday we'll see a Best Ensemble award for the Tonys.
Well, we are thrilled that you have joined us for our ensemble on
Sure.
the special Tony show. Remember that you can read Bob Cashill at Pop Dose, writing about the theater. Bob, I just wish you a very happy and healthy and great new year of theater going to come. And thanks so much for being with us in the neighborhood.
Thanks so much, Dave. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bob Cashill, our very first, but far from only guest, joining us on this Saturday morning, June 11th, 2022 on Dave's Gone By. By the way, I'm Dave Lefkowitz. I don't know if I mentioned that. Helping me on the sidelines with noises and things and inviting people is my wonderful wife, Joyce. And joining us in the neighborhood right this second is another guest, another theater expert, a longtime theater critic and voter and expert and writer. And I'm vamping as he comes on. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and we're just going to make sure he unmutes so we can hear him. He is Joe Dziemianowicz. Joe Dziemianowicz, for many, many years, the critic for the New York Daily News. Now he's at Oh, no. Come back, Joe. Come back, Joe. Well, I'll give you his creds anyway. NewYorkTheaterGuide.com. He is the vice president of the New York Drama Critics Circle. He also, you'll find his writings about theater and other things in Oxygen, Barons. He is constantly writing, constantly working, and now he is working to get back into the neighborhood to join us. Fingers crossed, let's hope, because he will be talking about what category? Oh, this is going to be interesting. You've just heard Bob Cashill about actor in a musical. Now we're going to see if there's agreement or disagreement from Joe Dziemianowicz connecting to audio. Please unmute. You're almost there.
Hi, Dave. Sorry, I had a little technical glitch. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Joe Dziemianowicz. Yay. Forgive me, we've already done your intro, your credits, so I'm going to go right into your category, if you don't mind. So here.
No, great. That's great. I think my category is Best Actor in a Musical, and it sort of embodies what Broadway's all about any given season. We've got the newcomers and we've got the oldies but goodies, right?
Exactly. In fact, I'll read them out. Here we go. One of the newcomers is a fellow named Billy Crystal. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's in a show called Mr. Saturday Night. Miles Frost in the Michael Jackson musical MJ. Hugh Jackman in The Music Man. Rob McClure as Mrs. Doubtfire. And Jaquel Spivey in A Strange Loop. Now, it just worked out that we've already heard somebody on this category. I want to see if you dovetail with them or not and what your feelings are.
Oh, really? Did we do double duty on this one? Yeah. I think that this is sort of going to be an exciting category, and I think a lot of the races. I don't think there's a real sure thing, but I think that the race is going to come down to a race between 2 newcomers who have so much in common. We've got 2 debuts, we've got 2 millennials, we've got 2 actors in that also have Michael Jackson in common. One, the author of the piece, one, the subject of the piece. So we've got Miles Frost and Jaquel Spivey. I think it's really going to come down to a race between those leading actors in A Strange Loop and MJ. And I think that Hugh Jackman will be content with his, Boy from Oz Tony and his special Tony. I think Rob McClure, who's always hardworking, always really likable. And he, this is his second nomination. He knows what the race is about. He knows that being nominated is being part of a winner. You know what I mean? Being recognized for a show that struggled, not just once, but twice. And Billy Crystal, who comes to Broadway with so much goodwill, so a lot of fans. I think that I think that ultimately he's got two categories. He's nominated in this category as well as best book, but I think he's ultimately gonna go home without any precious medal. So I think it's gonna come down to the two young 20-somethings. And I'll tell you exactly, I have no problem telling you I voted for Jaquel. I think that in A Strange Loop, and while I think Miles gives a performance that is incredibly exciting, I think it comes down to what really I'm a real what moves me, and I think that Jaquel Spivey's performance is all heart. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, another interesting thing that those two young actors have in common is they both won Theater World Awards, so they both captured attention. Do you know what I mean? So whatever happens on the night of the Tonys, these two guys have already won. They say you only have one chance to make a first impression, and look what these guys did, right? Came to Broadway, announced themselves in a huge way, and they're going to be remembered, whatever. But I do think that in the end, Jaquel Spivey will be the one who will be giving the speech. It's incredibly, who would ever think that, and what the author of this piece has done, Usher, the character he plays, is sort of when's the last time we saw an everyman look like that? Black, overweight, queer. But then again, move that aside, and it's a universal story of a search for who we are, what we mean to ourselves, what we mean to the world, and how we fit in. It's an incredibly moving story.
Now, can I ask you, was there anybody that you would have liked to see if there was an extra room in the category? Is there anybody that you were like, that was a great performance also?
No, I think that I think the nominators did a good job on this. Yeah. I think it's going to be a good race. I think, I'm looking forward to seeing, how it all plays out.
All right. Now, Joe Dziemianowicz, here's a question. When you first came back to going to the theater, probably a lot sooner than I did, after a year and a half off, after this pandemic, yeah. I'm wondering what the first show you saw was, or the first moment when you went like, what was it extraordinary, or was it like, this is like normal, I just haven't done this in a bunch of months?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about that as I was, the first show back was Broadway, was Passover. And, I spend a lot of time in the in the theater, so I hear a lot of pre-show announcements. But do I remember the exact words? No, but I remember the feeling, a surge of emotion as this, they're talking about welcome back. And I don't think, that crowd that I was in the theater with all knew how important, how significant, and how meaningful it was to be back. And, it was sort of like, excellent play, by the way, which I had seen at LCT3 before it moved to Broadway, but so much joy from a pre-show opening. It was kind of great.
That's neat. Now, also, speaking of great, besides A Strange Loop, which you obviously loved, was there a show or two that you saw on or off Broadway this past season that you absolutely loved?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had just wrapped sort of the last Broadway show, all the critics see everything. And, I had finished the last show. And, I think it was maybe 2 days later, I saw this play by Samuel D. Hunter called A Case for the Existence of God. And, I suspect that other people that you're going to be talking to on this podcast and on the show today will mention it, because I was so taken by surprise. It's so small, but so big. And just a reminder that, Broadway season ends, but it's a Mobius. It just goes, the theater just goes on and on. Story of two young men who come together for one reason, stick together for quite another reason. And it's just a beautiful play, I am so I didn't get to see it, but I'm hoping it'll come
and move and maybe come to Broadway.
Yeah, I suspect that it's a play that'll be done a lot. It's a very economic, well, two characters, one set, and it's in one, essentially a cubicle. It could be done with, minimal set. And it just is a huge, wonderful reminder of what you can do in the theater that you can't do anywhere else. It's time changes, and by the play's own design, by the playwright's design. These are two men who never get out of their chair until the last 15 minutes of a 90-minute play. But time goes by, and ultimately characters change. Where it goes at the end is a complete wonderful surprise.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I haven't seen it. I honestly don't know.
Yeah. No.
What I do. So
yeah. No.
But before we let you go, Joe Dziemianowicz, I'm curious, what might you be looking forward to? Because since you said Broadway's a Mobius, theater's a Mobius, what are you looking forward to in this season that's already started now, this next one?
Yeah, and it's funny, I was just thinking about that too. As I mentioned, Passover was the first on Broadway, but I saw Merry Wives at the Delacorte, the public theater production. So I'm looking forward to Richard III. I'm booked in July. Danae Guerrera, who is so good, is so good on stage. I'm looking forward to seeing her, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Janine Tesori and David Lindsay-Abaire do, and Victoria Clark do with Kimberly Akimbo. I love the show off Broadway at the Atlantic, and it's always interesting to see what changes, what stays the same when that moves to Broadway in the fall. I think it's a very, very sweet show. Again, a small show, but ultimately has big things to say about, what matters.
You always have big things to say about what matters to us as people and as theater people. Joe Dziemianowicz, everybody remember to read him. I unfortunately always keep this on a separate page. I shouldn't do that. But you write for NewYorkTheaterGuide.com, also for Oxygen, for Barron's. Is there another place where we should be reading?
I write for Newsday quite a bit. I had done a little bit of theater writing for them about Funny Girl, and how Fanny Brice lived on Long Island and went out to the home that she lived in. Got to nose around her old stomping grounds. So yeah, I read for a bunch of people, so I appreciate your mentioning that.
Well, then everybody Google Joe, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's Dziamianowicz.
That's correct.
Joe Dziemianowicz, and just a great friend of the neighborhood. So great to have you back.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to see you.
You too.
Have fun.
Happy Tonys. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Joe Dziemianowicz in the neighborhood on this Tony special. Oh, this is so great, and I'm so delighted. We'll have another guest in just a couple of minutes, but I want to do some trivia before I forget to, because we can just get so overwhelmed with the guests that we forget some of the other fun. Yeah, I've got some trivia questions, and these are, they're going to be a mix of. They're all Broadway. Would you like tea? I would love some tea if I have. If you can spill out my cup over there. That would be amazing. So some of these are for novices. You don't have to be these Broadway mavens that we're talking to. And some of them are a little more tough. And some you have to kind of have been paying attention all season. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm good. I've got myself, sir. More important, I'm going to ask you all a question. For example, here's our first Tony trivia question of the show. Nominated for best, and if you know this, don't just shout it out. Give people a second or two. Nominated for Best Revival of a Musical this year is The Music Man, which features both book and score by whom? Now, all the theater critics watching and the theater people go, oh, come on.
Dick Van Dyke?
It's not Dick Van Dyke. It's not Angela Lansbury, who, by the way, is getting a special Tony tomorrow.
She looks great, too. I saw her.
Oh, yay. Oh, yay. So give it one more time. Nominated for Best Revival of a Musical is The Music Man.
Oh, Kanye West.
No. Features book and score by, and the answer is Meredith Willson, who is a man.
Who knows that?
Meredith, Willson. Well, yeah. Music Man's a classic. So Meredith Willson wrote that. And speaking of Meredith Willson, here's our second question. Which of these other musicals was not written by him? A, Here's Love. B, The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Or C, Take Me Along. Okay. So we know Meredith Willson wrote The Music Man.
Unsinkable Molly Brown.
Joyce is saying The Unsinkable Molly Brown was not
It's
written
different. It's different
by
in the
Meredith Willson.
title.
The other choices are Here's Love or Take Me Along. And the answer is C, Take Me Along, which was written by Bob Merrill, Joseph Stein, who also co-wrote Fiddler on the Roof, and Bob Russell. Let's
Critics
do
know that.
one or two more of our, excuse me, our trivia questions. We were just talking with a couple of critics about Rob McClure, Tony nominated for starring in Mrs. Doubtfire. Now, McClure has had some bad luck on Broadway. He was in all of these short-lived shows, but which of these Broadway shows was Rob McClure not in? A, All Shook Up, B, Chaplin, C, Honeymoon in Vegas. Okay. Yes, there was a musical of Honeymoon in Vegas, in case you didn't know.
I'll say that one.
You'll say Honeymoon in Vegas. He was not a Rob McClure show. Do you agree at home? I'll read the question again. Rob McClure, he's Mrs. Doubtfire, and he's had some bad luck. I mean, that show, it was actually a very enjoyable show, but it flopped, it closed. He's had some other bad luck shows. He was in all of these except which? All Shook Up, Chaplin, or Honeymoon in Vegas? Joyce says Honeymoon in Vegas, and the answer is another really enjoyable show that flopped, All Shook Up, which took a bunch of Elvis Presley songs and put them in a comical framework. And that starred Cheyenne Jackson, Jen Gambatese, who actually went into Mrs. Doubtfire, and Jonathan Hadari. Wow. Let's do one more.
You should tell people that I do not know anything about theater.
I'm the theater guy. Joyce is the brilliant professor gerontologist person. Just like All Shook Up did for Elvis's catalog, the Tony-nominated musical Girl from the North Country repurposes Bob Dylan songs into an artsier version of a jukebox musical. A lot of musicals in recent years have used an artist's catalog for either a jukebox or bio musical. So I will name the artist, you name the Broadway show. Okay, so they took this person's catalog and worked some of those songs into Broadway shows. What were their names? A, Johnny Cash. What was the Johnny Cash musical called?
Man in Black.
Great title, but no. What's one of his most famous songs?
Oh, Folsom Prison Blues.
Wasn't called Folsom Prison.
A Boy Called Sue.
Not A Boy Called Sue. No, he called it the hemorrhoid song. He used to joke about it.
Oh, I love that. Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire is the correct answer.
Hosier calls it Arsonist's Lullaby. I think is the...
Believe it or not, about a decade ago, there was also a Beach Boys-based musical. What was that called?
Oh, Summer Lovin'.
Great title, but no. The Beach Boys musical, another Beach Boys.
Run, Run, Run.
No, keep going. You maybe their most famous, not my favorite song of theirs, but one of their
I don't know that.
absolute most
I can't
famous.
think, but I need caffeine.
You're thinking of it. You're picking up. You're picking up on this one.
Good Vibrations.
Bingo! Good Vibrations. There it is. All right, here's one. Here's one that has several answers. John Lennon. What musicals?
Oh, can I do it? Yeah! That's Yoko singing.
No, there's no Yoko. Well, no, actually, there was New York Rock. Years ago, there was a Yoko musical that she wrote. But what John Lennon musicals were there?
A Yellow Submarine.
No, that was a movie. I'm sure they'll adapt that at some
Hare
point.
Krishna.
No.
I don't know.
Well, years and years ago, it was one of the first jukebox musicals ever. They did Beatlemania, which was sort of a fake Beatles concert. And then they reiterated
It's like
that with
Jersey
Rain.
Boys or something, right? It's like a song one.
Well, it's more of it's not even a story
It's
concert.
very hot, honey.
Beatlemania was, I think, just like them, the band, a fake band doing Beatles songs, as was Rain.
They had mania. They were manic.
Yeah, Beatlemania. And then, believe it or not, there was also an underrated show in 2005 called Lennon that specifically concentrated on Lennon's life post-Beatles. And everybody complained that there weren't enough Beatles songs in it. It's like, hello, that's not the story. All right, we got someone coming to the neighborhood. Let's finish this up real quick. Next person, Carole King. Now, this is pretty recent.
Oh,
What was it?
I know
Yeah.
what you told me. Can you ask the person, ask the Zoom person?
I guess I can. I guess I can let Bob Cashill in. I'm sorry, not Bob Cashill. This is going to be Zachary Stewart. I'm not sure who Paul Zureb is, but
That's it. He's probably sharing it.
let's see. Zachary, by the way, is the chief critic of Theater Mania, and he is here. Please unmute Zachary.
Good morning, Dave.
Welcome, Zachary. Now you caught us just in the middle. We're already running slightly late of doing a couple of trivia quiz questions, and then we'll get to your category. So since you're here, I'm going to put you on the spot with 2 quick questions. And give a moment. I know you'll know the answers, but we're also allowing the audience to kind of this we're just listing famous pop and rock music people and wondering what jukebox musicals used their stuff. You'll know this one. For example, we were just talking about like Johnny Cash, and it was Ring of Fire. The Beach Boys had Good Vibrations. So what was Carole King's musical called?
It was Beautiful, of course, and it ran for 5 years at the Stephen Sondheim Theater. And
yeah, there you go. Yeah, remember, not everybody here is a Zachary Stewart who runs Theater Mania, who was the chief critic for Theater Mania. So I got one more, though, and this is also very recent. The Temptations.
Oh, yes, of course. What was that even called now? I know there was a Temptations musical. It was... Oh, I'm drawing a blank, Dave. This was just on Broadway.
Please don't leave me now. Don't you go.
I need to drink more coffee before I do this.
Don't make me.
Don't make me. Oh.
Don't make me.
Oh, bag.
Oh, Ain't Too Proud. Right. You see 11, 12, 13 of these a season, and they all start to blend in.
And I'm very sorry to put you on the spot. It was wrong of me to go over with that segment, because we are going to be talking about something that you are very prepared to talk about, Zachary Stewart, because your category on the Dave's Gone By Tony show, let me make sure I have my paper here, is Actress in a Play. And it's a cool category. Let me read the nominees and you'll have your say about them. For example, Gabby Beans, what a name. Gabby Beans in Skin of Our Teeth, LaShawne's Trouble in Mind, Ruth Negga in Macbeth, Deirdre O'Connell as Dana H., Mary Louise Parker in How I Learned to Drive. Zachary Stewart, your thoughts?
Well, this was the first time I had ever seen Gabby Beans in the Lincoln Center revival of Skin of Our Teeth, Thornton Wilder. This is a massive play about the end of the world and one family from New Jersey living through it. And, she makes a really, there it is, there's the playbill. She makes a really big choice in the character. She's kind of this outsized, grotesque character, but then sometimes, she'll come back and it'll be the actress leveling with you. And this is Wilder doing some Brechtian flourishes on the Broadway stage. I'm not sure she's really a contender in this, but I'm glad she was nominated, and it was a great Broadway debut for her. LaShawne's, of course, is better known to Broadway audiences for her work in musicals, like The Color Purple, but she was in the revival of an Alice Childress play called Trouble in Mind. Do you have the playbill for that one?
I didn't even see it. I'm sorry.
I think I might have.
We should have. It was wonderful, I've heard.
Yeah, no, it was a marvelous production. It was late in coming. This was supposed to have been on Broadway in the 50s, and it was canceled by its producers because the playwright refused to compromise with her vision and the story she wanted to tell. And so now it's finally gotten its due. LaShawne's was marvelous in it. It's a bit of a backstager. It's about an actress and a group of Black actors performing this anti-lynching play that is a bit over the top and self-congratulatory, for New York white liberals. And she was wonderful in it, but the show has been closed for many months, and I'm not sure it's quite fresh in the minds of voters. However, Ruth Negga is right now playing Lady Macbeth on Broadway in the Broadway revival of Macbeth, opposite Daniel Craig. Did you see this one, Dave?
I did not see it, no.
It's a wonky sort of version of Macbeth. There's about 5 visions going on here. This is what the director Sam Gold often does, It almost seems as though you're watching his rehearsal process on stage, but it never quite made it out of the rehearsal room, did it? So, she's a marvelous actor. I saw her play Hamlet at the St. Anne's Warehouse in Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and she was wonderful in this. And so I kept wondering, maybe what would have made this production better was if she and Daniel Craig switched roles every single night, kind of like Laura Linney and Cynthia Nixon did in The Little Foxes. But instead we get what I think is kind of a standard issue mad scene in Lady Macbeth. This is not her best work, and I don't think she's going to win a Tony for this. The real competition in this category is going to come between Mary Louise Parker, who's in the Broadway revival of How I Learned to Drive.
Oh, she's you don't have to wait for me. Even
our visual aid right there. Yes, she's reprising a role that she played at the Vineyard off Broadway 25 years ago. Yeah. And she is a remarkable actor. She won this category last year. It was less than a year ago, really, but it was that weird season that was.
I mean, she
wrapping
won
up.
Or for the. What do you mean she won this category?
Well, no, she won the Best Actor in a Play category last
for a different show.
Mary Louise Parker,
right.
For The Sound Inside.
Got it. Yeah.
And she is incredible, and this will be back-to-back wins for her if she gets this. And I think she very well could. I still think she's the front runner in this. Her play is open, voters can go see it, it's fresh in their minds, she's giving a remarkable performance, and no one would begrudge her for winning this. However, my personal favorite, and someone who I think really has a shot at this, is Deirdre O'Connell in Dana H., which was a show that was also at the Vineyard and then transferred to Broadway for a brief, unsuccessful run. But it's Lucas Nath, who Broadway audiences might remember from A Doll's House Part 2, which was on Broadway a few years ago. This is the story of his mother and how she was actually kidnapped by a neo-Nazi. And the way that it's told is you hear his mother's actual voice in these interviews about it. And then the actor, Deirdre O'Connell, who's playing her on stage, has to lip sync this performance in its entirety. And so as an actor, usually you have a bit of leeway when you're interpreting a role, right? You choose when to breathe, you choose when to emphasize certain words, you choose the pacing and the cadence of what you're saying. None of this is given to the actor here. She has to conform to the recording and still bring somewhat of herself and her choices to the performance. And Deirdre O'Connell does this. It still haunts my memory. It is one of the most incredible physical performances I've ever seen on stage. And I think the fact that it requires that kind of rigor may stick in voters' minds, it's something they can hold on to. Like, there's a reason why when it comes to, say, costume design as a Tony, oftentimes period dramas and costume dramas get it, because you can physically see the work, you have this tangible thing to hold on to. And I think when it comes to acting, this performance, you really see the work that went into it. It's almost like figure skating. And Deirdre O'Connell has landed all of her triple axels in this performance.
And also, she's been such a stalwart off Broadway for like 3 decades at this point. There may be, as great as I didn't see Dana H., but as great as she might have been, there's also this sense of, about time she made it to Broadway in an extraordinary way. Let's give it to her. Even though Mary Louise Parker was great. Were there any people you thought were left out of this category, if not unfairly, because there was just no room, but someone who would have fit in very comfortably?
No, I think this is about right, actually.
Okay.
And I'm thrilled, as you said, that Deirdre O'Connell is here, because she's consistently good in everything she's in. And there is an element of equity in this kind of thing in awards. People remember, they were snubbed for this in the past. I think this is one of the things that will carry, not to move out of my lane too much, but Joaquina Calacango across the finish line for an incredible performance she's giving in Paradise Square, but she was in this very category a bit robbed for Slave Play last year. I thought she was giving an incredible performance in that. So there's equity in this. Rob McClure, who you were just mentioning on the show, I think is the Susan Lucci of these awards, and is building up such a momentum that when he finally does win, it must be overwhelming. Kelly O'Hara occupied a similar position until I want to say 2016. You know, she was always nominated, never won, but was consistently giving great performances.
Well,
so yeah, Deirdre O'Connell.
Yeah, no, that's just stuff it doesn't take until like Rob McClure's doing King Lear in
Oh my gosh.
2049.
I would go to that production of King Lear gladly, though, and I'm sure he would kill it.
Now, let me ask you, of all the shows that you, Zachary Stewart, saw on, off, even off Broadway all season long, did you have, you know, one or two absolute favorites?
There were two, a play and a musical. And the play was Martina Mayak's Sanctuary City, which was a holdover from before the pandemic. A lot of companies have been tying up loose ends and really keeping to their commitments that they made to artists before the pandemic, which is something that I've been really glad to see. Sanctuary City is a play about two young people, one of whom becomes an American citizen, the other of whom is undocumented in this country, and they plan to get married when they're adults. The only problem is he's gay and is in a relationship with a man, and this somewhat complicates things. This is a multi-year story of their relationship and who they are and what they are, and it not only was told beautifully and directed by Rebecca Frecknell in almost this cinematic way where you could see the jump cuts on stage, but it really touched me personally because I lived through a very similar story with my own husband. You know, he was here on an F1 visa and couldn't become a citizen for a long time. I met him Bush administration, you know, and so this was something that didn't change in our federal policy until the repeal of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act. And so, you know, for me, this was something that, and I've known a lot of people in this position as well. And so for me, this was something that really struck me personally, and I thought it was just a beautiful piece of theater. The musical that I thought was the very best musical of this year was not on Broadway. It was way downtown at Here, and it was Taylor Mack's The Hang. And this is a musical about the last hours of Socrates, where he basically has just a big party, you know, before he ingests hemlock at the direction of the state. And it was Taylor Mack, you know, it had these beautiful costumes from Machine Dazzle that looked like they were, you know, fished out of garbage and turned into runway couture. And it was, you know, as Taylor Mack is fun, irreverent, and smart. There was a line that resonates through my memory from it, and it was, beware the commerce of your outrage. And it was about how so much of what we do in our lives now, the hours we spend scrolling through our devices and looking at our screens, are about being pricked, you know, in our minds, our outrage that keeps our eyeballs engaged and clicking, and how this is all being used to sell us things as well. Very, very smart that Socrates should be telling us this through the centuries.
Well, I should have hung with that show. Everybody's mentioning shows like I did not get to see for various reasons, and now I'm like, oh, I should have gone to that. I wish I'd seen that. You know, I did not like Mac's play on Broadway a couple of years ago.
Gary, the
that
Titus Andronicus play. Yeah.
Oh, God, but I would give him another shot just from the way you're talking about his musical, The Hang. But we have had a wonderful time hanging with Zachary Stewart. Now, please read Zachary Stewart, in theatermania.com. And let me ask you, what is going to be your way of watching the Tonys? Are you going to be there? Are you going to be at home with your husband just watching on TV or on the computer?
I'm going to be sitting on this very couch watching Paramount Plus, and then I guess switching over to CBS. Maybe it'll continue on Paramount Plus. I'm never quite sure about these things, but I'll be writing a review of the telecast, which you can see on Theater Mania Monday morning.
Look for it, Zachary Stewart. And Zachary, thank you so much for being with us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Have a great one. Thank you, man. Happy Tonys.
Bye-bye.
Zachary Stewart from TheaterMania.com here on the Dave's Gone By Total Theater Tony Broadway special. We're waiting for a guest who isn't here yet, but that's okay. We've got some other people that we pre-recorded so that we can play them for you as these things happen. We also have more trivia for you, and of course we do have, God help us, Rabbi Sol Solomon offering his thoughts on the Broadway season. And he always, of course, looks for the Jewish angle of a particular Broadway season. It's a lot of fun. You can find out more about Rabbi Saul at his website, shalomdamit.com. Shalom, DAMMIT.com. Oh, no, he is, he's in Temple. So he had he's in God forbid, no, he's in Temple.
I thought you said he's in heaven.
But I am here. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. And by the way, to find out more about Dave's Gone By, go to davesgoneby.com. DAVESGONEBY.com. So let's see who else is going to be weighing in on stuff. What's kind of cool is we just had Zachary Stewart, the chief critic for Theater Mania. Let's get the guy who's the managing editor of Theater Mania to also talk about the season. And by the way, I haven't even mentioned all the folks, I didn't get a chance yet, who are going to be joining us on this show. We've got Ed Rubin from Artez Magazine, David Finkle, going to be talking to us again. David is from New York Stage Review. We will also have Leslie Hoban Blake and David Sheward. You know who they are if you watch every episode of Dave's Gone By. Eva Heinemann from High Drama, Charlie Gross from Two on the Aisle, Adam Rigg. Oh, I forgot about that. I shouldn't forget about that. We're going to have a brief chat with him because he did the set design of The Skin of Our Teeth. And then Rabbi Saul, as we mentioned, and Brian Scott Lipton. So much fun, so many people weighing in on this year's Tony Awards. But let's go to the managing editor of Theater Mania, or I should say the editor-in-chief of TheaterMania.com. He's also the president of the Outer Critics Circle. Let's bring this up, and then I'll have to share my screen to do it. So hold on. Where's my share screen? I'll get used to this at some point.
It's the little green button, David.
Yeah, I gotta get back to the Zoom thing to do it. Okay.
I can help you if you need.
I think hold on. Let's do this. Share. And now I'm gonna make this big. And now we will have David Gordon. Here on the Dave's Gone By Total Theater Tony Broadway episode. I hope you're all theater maniacs out there because we're going into Theater Mania at the moment with the editor-in-chief of that long-running theater website. He's also the president of the Outer Critics Circle, so he sees all the shows. I'm sure he has opinions about all of them, as well as the Tony nominees. Won't you please welcome to the neighborhood for the very first time, for no good reason, and I apologize for that, David Gordon. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you for having me. It's we're very tired. I'm just hearing all of those things you said about me, and I'm very tired thinking about it.
We should say that you are especially tired because Mazel Tov, you have a 4-month-old girl named Michaela.
Yes, and it's wonderful. And having a child during Tony's season is.
I know you couldn't have planned the conception.
Well, she was born in January, to her credit.
Yeah, true.
Now she's just finally figuring out how to be like a little person as opposed to just being like a sleeping, pooping sack of deliciousness.
Well, that's what I am. But you know, and by the way, just got a press release today, I'm sure you did too, that there's a Sesame Street off-Broadway show coming next. Maybe that'll be her first show.
I know, my wife is so excited already.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I'm excited to hear you talk about a category of Tony nominees this year. And you took Featured Actress in a Musical. The nominees are Jeanette Bayardelle from Girl from the North Country, Shoshana Bean from Mr. Saturday Night, Jane Harischel from Music Man, L. Morgan Lee from A Strange Loop, Patti LuPone, and Jennifer Simard, both of them in company. David Gordon, your thoughts?
I took this category because I think it's going to be one of the easiest of the night. I think it had Patti LuPone's name on it from the second she was announced to star in this show. Mm-hmm. I think for everyone else it will be exactly. I think for everyone else it will be an honor just to be nominated, but I also think there's a world in which there are several surprises.
Well, how do you feel? I mean, did you think Patti LuPone was the best of the field?
I think Patti LuPone in company was the best I've seen her in a really long time. Okay. I thought, and I've seen her sing that song in concerts. I've seen her do that role before in other concerts. And I just think the characterization of Joanne that she developed with Marianne Elliott was so smart and so she just acted it so well. And it's not just about the acting the song, it's the whole cumulative effect in the show. And you really get this woman's pain in a way that I'd never really seen before. There were a lot of things about Company that I never really saw before until I saw this production.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, and exactly.
So let's talk also about some of the other candidates, some of the other nominees. Did any make a strong impression on you? Shoshana Bean, Jane Howdyshell, L. Morgan Lee, Jennifer Simard, Jeanette Byardell.
Well, I was going to say, without, were it not Patty, I think the competition would be between Jennifer Simard and L. Morgan Lee. Jennifer Simard for being her usual absolutely hilarious self as Sarah and Company, and then L. Morgan Lee in Strange Loop for being one of Usher's thoughts. And she's so good, and she's another one. She just steals every moment that she's on stage. And if L. Morgan Lee would win, she would become the first openly trans performer to win a Tony Award in an acting category.
Well, should that factor in? Should that matter?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't factor in. I'm just saying that's a tidbit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you think of any actresses who could have been in this category, should have been perhaps?
So many. Let me pull up my spreadsheet. Hang on.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
We're talking with David Gordon, by the way, from TheaterMania.com. He's the editor-in-chief of TheaterMania. He's also the president of the Outer Critics Circle.
Yes. From Girl from the North Country, it's funny, Jeanette Byardell gave a great performance in Girl from the North Country. She's not the person that I thought they would have nominated. I figured it would be Kimber Elaine Sprawl, who, depending on who you talk to, may or may not be the girl from the North Country of the title, depending on how you interpret the show. But Jeanette Byardell has a couple of those moments where it just blows everybody away, and she's really wonderful. Who else? It's so interesting to look at this category and think like, well, Diana the Musical came and went too quickly for Judy Kaye to be nominated and Erin Davie to be nominated. I thought Erin Davie was absolutely wonderful as Camilla Parker Bowles. I thought she was the heart and soul of that show. Was it worthy of a nomination? I don't know, but if I were making my list, she would be close. She would be close in there, I think. I liked Annalise Scarpacci, who played the daughter in Mrs. Doubtfire. That's another show that
she was really good.
She was really good, and it's another show that came and went too quickly, and I don't know if it's a nominatable role compared to all of these other.
Oh yeah, she's on stage enough. I think there's enough time up there for it to be a good actress for real. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought she was really good, and it's first time I'd ever seen her in anything, and she's gonna have a big future.
Okay.
And it's funny, if we're talking really out there, my favorite person in Funny Girl was the woman that played Mrs. Straykosh. Which is not a nominatable performance just based on stage time, but she was the one that I walked out talking about.
Cool. Well, let's also talk about with David Gordon. If you were to choose your favorite one or two shows, on or off Broadway or off of the whole season, what would they be?
My favorite show of the season, I think, is Thoughts of a Colored Man. And I keep going back. It did not get nominated for anything. It closed very prematurely because of the pandemic. I think they literally ran out of actors when Omicron hit. And they just couldn't financially make it work to close down and then come back. I walked out of that show, and it was one of the few times where I said, God, I wish that were longer, because it had me for every single second of it. And I never say I wish something was longer.
There's a joke in there somewhere, but
you're right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but Thoughts of a Colored Man. Okay. Unfortunately, I did not get to see it.
I really loved
Omicron and stuff.
Yeah, I really loved it. We sat there riveted, and it was one of those things where I was watching it, and I said to myself, "Is this as good as I think? Like, am I actually enjoying this as much as I think it is?" And I think I did. And my wife and I left the theater, and we both looked at each other and were like, "That was awesome."
Did you feel that way in a play that I imagine is similar, the revival of For Colored Girls, or are they two totally different beasts?
I did feel the same way. For Colored Girls, it is similar but different. For Colored Girls, it was an absolutely beautiful production, and I wish that the Broadway financial model allowed for shows that are ensemble casts of people that have no real celebrities in them to run longer. But post-pandemic, I'm not sure that's a financial model that will survive for the minute, and it should. And I think it was a similar situation with Thoughts of a Colored Man, that it was an ensemble of men that people hadn't really heard of and didn't really have much of a celebrity following, for better or for worse.
But let's talk. I mean, you mentioned about coming out of the theater revived and like awesome.
Yeah.
What's that experience for you? Like when you first went back to the theater after a year and a half of no theater at all. Was there a big moment for you, a aha thing, or did it just feel natural, like slipping on an old pair of shoes again?
It felt natural and completely different and scary all at the same time. And I spent so much time over the pandemic compartmentalizing the well, if I never got to do this again, could I be able to go on with it? Because I've been doing this for a long time now, and pre-pandemic out every night, every other night, seeing shows, and then once it all stopped, I sort of had to figure out how to have a life outside of live performance. And I kept saying, I'll be fine. If I never see a show again, I'll be fine. I've had a good run, and life goes on. And my wife was like, no, you miss it. You miss it more than you think you do. And then I went to see I was fortunate enough to be in the first audience for Springsteen's first night back. Yeah. And it was great. And and it was an extremely moving show that he put together. It was, you're walking in and you have all of the anti-vaccine protesters hanging out in front of the theater shouting that, he's a Nazi, you're a Nazi, and we're all Nazis for, whatever they want to believe. And then he got in there, and that was before Delta even hit, so you didn't even need to wear a mask. But my wife was pregnant, so I wore a mask the whole time just for safety reasons. And the thing that surprised me most about going to the theater post-pandemic was how normal it felt. Even though I'm wearing a mask on my face and I have to remember that I have to shave every 3 days or else it starts itching.
But even so, it's kind of like...
It felt like nothing at all, and yet it felt completely different and all the same, and and I'm glad to be back, and I'm mostly on a sentimental level, and I tweeted this the other day, I'm mostly just grateful for the artists and for all of the theater on stage, backstage, the people checking COVID vaccine cards at the front door. The people that tend to get forgotten about are the people that always get the most yelled, like the ushers. The people that get treated badly are the people that are always forgotten about. And I'm just so appreciative of everyone that had some part in making theater this year from the perspective of an audience member. And they put themselves in harm's way to entertain us. And at least for me, it does not go unnoticed.
Well, we in the neighborhood are grateful to have people like you, David Gordon, who love theater, who promote theater, who are critical of it, but have a great, deep understanding and joy in it as well. Everybody, please read David Gordon and everybody else on theatermania.com. Yes. Zachary Stewart's going to be with us on the show as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and don't forget that he is the president of the Outer Critics Circle, too, who vote and do off-Broadway as well as Broadway. David Gordon, great to have you here in the neighborhood and back in the theater, and thank you so much for joining us.
And always nice to talk to another Dave.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
With David Gordon there in the neighborhood, or here in the neighborhood, where it's just after 10 o'clock Eastern Time on this Saturday, June 11th, 2022. We're doing our 17th annual, as you can see, from this beautiful board that my wife made up last night. Joyce, thank you, Joyce. It's the Total Theater Tony Broadway show. We have theater critics, as you've seen, weighing in on the categories, the various categories that are nominated for this year's Tony Awards, which we haven't even mentioned really, are tomorrow night on CBS TV. Most of it, there's a pre-hour on Paramount.
If you don't have a TV, like a land TV, like we don't have TV.
We would have to get Paramount Plus, I think, to watch it. If you have a regular basic TV, it's on CBS. And the nice thing is that for once, it's on CBS everywhere at the same time. We'll talk about that. But before we get to that, I'm going to ask our new guest. I don't know if he's going on video. We may just have him on audio. But ladies and gentlemen, do we have with us Ed Rubin? Do we? Ed, you there? Ed, I don't hear you. Oh dear. No, he's not muted. You need to check. I'm assuming he can hear me, and therefore, Joyce is helping, as you can see, trying to help with a thing. But Ed, yeah, I'm seeing your name. It's a lovely.
Put him in the waiting room and let him in again.
Okay. How do I do that? Oh, okay. Ed's going back into the waiting room. Well, I'm hoping he figures out. There's probably some microphone thing. Because he was expecting to be on telephone. He didn't realize it was going to be a Zoom thing. So I'm going to readmit him?
Yeah.
Let's try this again. Okay.
Is your sound on?
My sound, yeah, we were just watching these other people.
He's muted. So ask to unmute. I can't click it.
It's not, yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, no, now he is muted.
He's on a phone, though.
Well, that's fine. Oh, hello? Ed? I don't know if he knows how. That's the thing.
He might be on, is he on a phone?
It probably is. He thought it was just going to be a phone call. So we kind of, oh, wait, this might work. Hello? Ed, are you there? No, I think you need to change your mic or your, however you're trying to call in or talk
he's
in.
Kind of loud in the...
Or something.
Does he want to call you on the cell? And
We might have to do that. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, Ed, I'm going to let you go. And wait, he's trying to come in another way. Hold on.
Good. It's even better. He's probably coming in for sound.
Let's just see if this will work. Well, he's connecting.
Hey!
Well, we see him. Yay! We see Ed Rubin. Hold on.
Ed, you look great.
He's trying to connect to the audio. Let's see if he can do it. I think he knows that he's not being heard, but the question is how he can fix that. By the way, you're watching the 17th Annual Total Theater Broadway show. Well, I'm glad we got to see you, Ed. I can ask questions, you can nod yes or no.
That's true.
Thing is, Ed doesn't even have a category because we let Ed be Ed, and he sort of just goes off on whatever subject he feels like.
That's great.
And I think you have my cell phone.
He's trying to connect to audio. Yeah, he's trying. Like, give him a
but
chance.
It didn't work.
Yeah, but he's trying again.
Yeah.
So see, he's trying again.
Yeah, you can tell this is not the actual Tony Awards, ladies and gentlemen, because this happens.
This one, you could,
Yeah. See if he can do it.
Ed.
Wait, I hear a noise.
Ed.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God. I don't know. You're not the only one. This happens occasionally on other people too. But anyhow, good morning.
Good morning, Rubin. It's good to see you. Ed, do you still write for Artez magazine, and where else do you write for?
I write for like 5 other websites.
Well, TOTALTHEATER.com, of course.
But the thing is, I'm a senior associate editor at Artez magazine.
Ooh.
So,
Yeah.
but I did want to say I spent a couple of hours. Look at those hats.
Well, you can see. We still can't see you.
Right.
You can't do the video? Is that?
Yeah.
I'm on my cell phone now.
That's okay. All right.
Oh.
What are you doing? No.
Oh,
Hold on.
Ed?
And I'm sorry, we muted you accidentally. Just unmute again. I'm sorry.
That was me. Oh no.
All right.
Oh, no, we're back. Okay.
Okay. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I can't get you on my computer for some reason, but I have you on my cell phone.
That's fine. That's fine. We can't see you.
We just asked you to start video, Ed. See if you could start video.
Start my video.
Well, there you go. Perfect.
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 Great. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. We're almost halfway through with the segment now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Very fast.
All right, but let's ask you though. We let Ed be Ed. We let him come on and talk about whatever is on your mind in terms of theater for the past season. Anything that's, instead of just taking a category, what do you feel strongly about? What's been in your head the past bunch of months?
Thank you for asking, because I did do some research to remind myself today. Here's the thing. First of all, everything is Black and gay, and there's much diversity on Broadway, off-Broadway, which I'm very happy about. But I'm not happy that everything, whether the casting is true or good, is questionable. Now, The Death of a Salesman is coming in an all-Black cast, previewing in September on Broadway. It's coming from England. So we're going to have this going on for quite a while, along with Black Lives Matters, the women's movement, all of this jumbled PC stuff. Now, I want to tell you, first of all, my favorite plays of this season of the year.
Okay.
There's a great irony in it. The Minutes.
By Tracy Letts. Okay. Oh no, Ed, you're muted again. We lost you. Ed, you're muted. Oh, there we go.
The girl from the North Country, Paradise Square, Take Me Out, How I Learned to Drive, and Hangman. The irony of it is that all of those, except for How I Learned to Drive, which is 75% capacity, all of those have 50% capacity. People aren't going because it's not Broadway. The plays that they're going to are Hugh Jackman, that boring kind of piece of whatever.
The Music Man. What do you mean a boring piece of whatever?
There's a lot of plays on Broadway, including The Music Man, that's awful, but my favorite play also happens to be Paradise Square, Goth, Drab, what's his name?
Drabinsky.
Drabinsky. The irony of it is he hasn't been on Broadway in 20 years.
Well, there's a reason.
And he was in jail, for like, 13 months or whatever. And it has now 10 Tony nominations for this play. It was quite wonderful, surprisingly so.
Well, let me ask you, Ed, before you go on from there. One of the things is that show did not get wonderful reviews. I liked it. I found it involving. The Let It Burn scene is amazing. But most critics were like, do you think that a certain undertow of the negative reviews of that show are because Arthur Rinsky defrauded a lot of people when he was putting up his Broadway shows 15, 20 years ago? They're just mad that he's back on Broadway.
Absolutely. Interestingly enough, the New York Times Review didn't mention that unless you clicked on his name, and then they went into the scandal. They didn't, in the review, they didn't say that, which was very nice of them. But I want to tell you the worst plays of the year.
Sure.
The worst play was Macbeth. It was absolutely dreadful, and Daniel Craig.
Why was it so terrible?
Daniel Craig can't handle the Shakespearean language. He's an awful Shakespeare. He's an awful actor on stage. He's a movie person. Ruth Negga, she's very beautiful. She's nominated for a Tony, I think. But the thing is, it just was an awful play. Imagine the end of the play, they all sit down to have soup, a bowl of soup. It's ridiculous. The second play that was the worst. The second play that was the worst was Long Day's Journey into Night at the Minetta Lane Theater. Ooh. The director cut it in half. It was both brothers were Black. They cut the maid out, who had a wonderful exchange with.
Well, a lot of revivals cut the maid because it keeps it under 4 hours if you lose the maid scene.
Well, I saw, it's my favorite play, so I was incensed. I saw it when it opened with Frederick March, Florence Eldridge, Jason Robards, and I think Bradford Dillman or someone. the irony of that is I wasn't even born, so it was a prenatal thing I watched. I can't be that old.
I'm not even, okay.
But Music Man was awful. I don't think Hugh Jackman was good in it, although he was agile enough to jump over a couple of desks and do this and do this. And also, what's her face, who I keep forgetting her name?
Sutton Foster, maybe?
Sutton Foster.
Yeah.
I happen to like Sutton Foster, but I don't think this was a good role for her. She only had 2 moments. I think it was in Act 2 that she's dealing with the kid, and that brought little tears to my eyes.
Well, that's,
that's
what Music Man's supposed to do when it's not making you laugh,
I know. But the thing is, what else did I want to say? I'm not sure what else I wanted to say.
Nice playing.
Mrs. Doubtfire was dreadful.
Oh, I did not think so. Why did you think Mrs. Doubtfire was dreadful?
Well, first of all, I thought he was too hyper, but that was supposed to be his role. But the other thing was they changed the ending. When the first time I saw it, they go back together to try to make their marriage work, if I remember correctly. On this one, she stays with the young hot number.
Right.
And she stays with because people want him to fuck her. So the audience is great. He's a hump. Does she want to be with that older person? So they changed it. They're changing a lot of plays to pamper the audience.
Well, no. I disagree with you completely on this. I think it's not that she wants to go be a what do you call a cradle robber? What do they call a cougar thing? I think they don't belong together anymore. They grew apart. He's changed a bit. She's also changed. She's moved on in the world. They're going to co-parent, and he's going to be a better parent. But
now in this version, yes, that's true in this version. Yeah. But in the original version, which I saw a billion years ago, I don't think that was the case. But I can't be 100% sure.
Okay, no, but I think even the movie, Sally Field does not get back with Robin Williams. It doesn't make it wouldn't be. That would be really pandering if she did. Well, let's hear one more thing that's on your mind from Ed Rubin, who is, you said, the managing editor of Artez, the senior
associate editor.
Senior associate editor of Artez magazine. Give us one more.
It's hard to do all of this holding the phone. By the way, also, I don't think Kimberly Akimbo.
Oh, yeah.
What was that? That was wonderful. That was wonderful. And that deserves the award for what's her name, who stars in it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that on top of.
Can you believe
Kimberly Akimbo is moving to Broadway this coming season, so people who didn't see it off Broadway will get to see it, which is great.
It's simply wonderful. She becomes a child. She is this child who is aging with this disease that ages her, etc. But Patti LuPone doesn't deserve to be nominated, and she won Outer Critics, and she won Drama Desk, and she may win Tony. I didn't particularly care for the revival of Company. It had maybe one moment, but she didn't deserve to be nominated. But what happens is Patti is a New Yorker. They love her, and they vote for their own. They vote for their own, and also.
Yeah, I will. Let me just jump in here. Just my personal thing, having seen Company twice within a couple of weeks. First time I saw it, I was not impressed with Patti LuPone. I thought she was kind of slumming it and and then I saw her again 3 weeks later, and it was much better. And she kind of, at that point, I was like, oh yeah, she's Patti. She might have been just in a bad.
Well, it could be, but it's. I think it's a nothing role. But the thing is that all of these organizations that give awards, they like to give awards to people that they want to show up, the stars.
Right.
if etc. And I've been on several boards of all of the theater organizations, and yes, that's what they do. You know, oh, we would love Patty to come and this. Of
And
course,
Hugh
she comes.
Jackman and you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
name value, marquee value. I get that.
yeah. You know, so, but anyhow, so that's all I really have to say. However, I also have to say that there were a lot of, and I opened up with this, there were a lot of diverse gay plays that are simply wonderful, wonderful, just wonderful. And you could name, I'm not going to name them. There are too many to name, but I'm really happy with this season.
Oh, yay. Well, we are very, very happy that you joined us this season. We finally got you on. Ed Rubin. Everybody read him, by the way, in our Tez magazine. And also just, you know, we hope you will keep going to the theater year after year and coming back with us to share more of, you know, things that only Ed Rubin could say in the way Ed Rubin says them. Ed, thank you very much.
I have a parting comment.
Go for
it's
it.
It's just a fact.
Yes.
2 days ago, I sent in a poem that I wrote to the New Yorker, and you're not supposed, you have to sign up to have a special account, blah, 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 this and that. And it says in the guidelines, do not send more than 2 submissions within a 12-month period. So I opened my cover letter and said I had to laugh because the last time I sent in something to the New Yorker was 60 plus years ago on the advice of my English teacher.
Wow.
So anyhow, I just thought I'd let you know.
Well, thank you. Well, you are an inveterate New Yorker and a delight to have in the neighborhood. Ed Rubin, I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. I'm sorry about this mix-up.
It's worth waiting for, always. Thank you, Ed.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Ed Rubin in the neighborhood, the one, the only, the Ed. There's nobody quite like.
It was nice to see him. It looks great.
He does look terrific, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So that's so great. Let's. We got more guests coming. Oh, I gotta remove this one also. Pardon me.
You're not wearing your hat, Sonny. You should wear a different
I should wear a hat, you know. But does anyone still wear a hat? Anybody knows company knows that reference. It's anyway. We have another guest. We have a delightful guest, someone who's been a friend of mine personally, probably for 30-something years now, someone who's been on the program, and someone that I mention every week because he and Leslie Hoban Blake co-star in a theater review show and a theater interview show called Two on the Aisle. You can go watch it on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, Two on the Aisle. Of course, I am talking about the one, the only, the Jewish, not Rabbi Sal Solomon, but Charlie Gross, who cannot join us live this morning because he's Orthodox. God bless him, and I'm sure God does. But he is with us on video, Charles Gross, and his category, what is it going to be? He's going to be talking about lead actress in a musical, here on the Dave's Gone By Tony Show, Charles Gross. Oh, wait, I also have to share my screen. Hold on. Charlie, hold on. Let me share the screen. Always a thing. I'll share this, then I'll make it big, then I'll turn it on, and I'll move the mouse. On the Total Theater Tony Show, one of my oldest friends in the theater, and just friends in general, wonderful person and a talented person, a good writer, and a theater lover and critic. His name is Charlie Gross. He's been doing a show called Two on the Aisle for a couple of decades now. It's a theater review and theater interview program as well. He does it with our mutual friend, Leslie Hoban Blake. You all know who that is. Plus, Charlie is a playwright. He's got a show called How I Found an Affordable Apartment in Manhattan. Was it without...
How I Found an Affordable Apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan without really trying.
Which they're trying to bring back to New York, possibly even the Upper West Side this coming season. So we're very excited to have Charlie back in the neighborhood for a Tony Show. Charlie, you're doing well? Everything good? You're happy to be back in the theater?
Thank God. Oh, I love being back in the theater. I never realized how much I missed it. And there has been some pretty good theater this season, I'm happy to say. Highlights for me on Broadway. Well, let's see. Oh, the Lehman Brothers trilogy, the Lehman trilogy. 3 hours long, and they had me on the edge of my seat for 2.5 of them.
Right.
There was the revival of How I Learned to Drive. You know, I saw that show when it first opened 20 years ago, and now it's back with its original leading actors and still packs the wallop. Off-Broadway, Kimberly Akibo, which had it been on Broadway, it would be, I'm sorry?
That's coming to Broadway next season.
And deservedly so. If it were on Broadway this season, I think it would be my choice for the Tony Award. And Christina Wong's Sweatshop Overlord, which I enjoyed immensely.
Oh, and that was a Pulitzer finalist, as a matter of fact.
Well, one-woman show about how this actress, playwright, rose to the challenge of COVID and basically had all her friends, her colleagues, and a whole bunch of strangers making protective masks. And just...
I mean, it's a biographical show written by Christina Wong. It's off Broadway. I don't know if anything's going to happen with it, but probably that will turn up again in New York. But here's what's turning up.
I hope so.
For Charlie Gross on our special Tony show, because he has chosen the category of Best Actress in a Musical. Let me read the contenders. You're going to say, of course, whom you think you will win, who you hope will win, also if anybody was left out. So, Charlie, these are the folks. Sharon D. Clarke in Caroline or Change, Carmen Cusack in Flying Over Sunset, Sutton Foster, The Music Man, Joaquina Calacundo in Paradise Square, and Mare Winningham, Girl from the North Country. Your thoughts, Charlie?
Well, of course, the first thing we have to do is see who was not nominated and determine were they overlooked or were they egregiously overlooked. And that would be in this year the entire cast of Six, the musical. Some very worthy performances, not one of them nominated, and very strange, Katrina Lenk in Company. Now, this was a highly anticipated show. It's opening one of the last shows that Stephen Sondheim participated in before he died. So you would think that she'd be at the top of everybody's list, but she's not here. So I guess that tells you something. I'm not sure what. Well, my opinion on her performance, I loved her reactions, which is an important part of that role because the character of Bobby is all about his, in this case, her reactions to his/her married friends. But when it came time for her to actually sing or do something, I can say it was lacking. That said, I really enjoyed this production of Company. I enjoyed the direction of it, the kind of Alice in Wonderland take of it. However, all in all, I think it does work better when Bobby is a boy.
Okay, fair enough. Now,
but I would still recommend this.
The character or the actresses that are nominated for a Tony.
Okay.
Where do you go with those? Well,
you've got some good performances here. Mare Winningham, Girl from the North Country. Frankly, I did not like Girl from the North Country. We're miserable, now we're more miserable. Hey, let's sing about Dylan's song. And although I think the performances were the best part of the show. And certainly hers was one of the best, but there is much stronger competition here. So I don't think she will get the nod. Similar Carmen Cusack, Flying Over Sunset. Although I am in the minority about Girl from the North Country. I think most of the critics did enjoy it. I think most of the critics also agree with me on the lukewarm reception for Flying Over Sunset. Did she give a good performance? Yes, but it was not a great show. Sutton Foster, in one of the greatest shows ever, The Music Man. And there is a part of me that would really like to see her win because of all the nominees, she is the only one who gave a comic performance. And I think comic performances are just so underappreciated when it comes to the awards. And here she really did give a whole new spin on the role. She, first of all, Marion the Librarian is generally played very wistfully. And certainly her interpretation is very wistful, but that there is just a touch of impatience to go along with it. Also, her first line, no. And she has us right there. She's rebuffing Harold Hill's, played by Hugh Jackman's advances. And I have to say, Hugh Jackman, who plays the title role in this show, it took him till the second act for me to kind of warm up to his performance. And all of his numbers, all his big numbers, are in the first act. So I think that tells you something.
Yeah, I was not blown away
his
by
performance.
Jackman, but I did like Sutton Forster quite a bit. But don't forget Sharon D. Clark in Caroline or Change.
Oh, we cannot forget Sharon D. Clark in Caroline or Change. I'll tell you, I saw the original production of Caroline, and I did not like it. I thought Caroline was a horrible character. This revival has really changed my mind. I still have problems with the show, especially the portrayal of the Jewish family that employs Caroline. But Sharon D. Clark gave such an incredibly powerful performance. I had a major problem with the sound system in that theater, and because I couldn't hear half the lyrics, but I heard every word. She belted out, and her 11th hour Roses Turn Like number, wow. So,
well, what about Calacongo then?
Tango, excuse me. Yeah. Yes. Well, she also has an amazing 11 o'clock number, and I think that number is going to get her the Tony Award. Now, I will say I think Caroline is a much stronger role, and I think Sharon D. Clark had a arguably stronger performance, but there are two things in Ms. Calacongo's favor. Number one, her show is still running, and a running show is always favored over a show that has closed. Number two, she also, as I mentioned, has an 11 o'clock number, and it is powerful and it is strong. And on the night I was there, when she finished that number, the audience leapt to their feet and they wouldn't stop applauding for like 2 minutes, maybe. It seemed like it was more. So,
and were you though on your feet with them voluntarily? Were you swept up, or did you watch them and go, "I should stand too"?
I think I have to say it was the latter, but it was an impressive performance of a mediocre number. But the fact that she managed to get that audience to their feet, I've never seen that. And as you mentioned, I've been doing this for a long time. And for that reason, although if it were up to me, I think I would give it to Sharon D. Clark. But I think Yuliana Calacongo will win this award.
Well, if you want to be winners, folks, all you have to do is go to the YouTube channel of Two on the Aisle to watch not just the most recent episodes of Charlie and Leslie Hoban Blake's show, but I mean, you've got them archived from going back almost 3 decades. How many years have you been doing the show?
Well, Two on the Aisle? Over 30. Over 30 years. You can even go back and see David and I's Tony predictions, see if we were right. You could see us reviewing The Little Mermaid on Broadway and all the hate mail that we got.
Yes. Oh, welcome back.
And which was interesting because we both kind of we didn't hate the show, but we didn't rave about it either.
So, but it's all there. It's go to the channel on YouTube, Two on the Aisle, to watch Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake do their thing, and also maybe off Broadway this coming season, Charlie doing his one-man show. We hope to see it, and Charlie, hope to see you next year talking Tonys with us in the neighborhood. Thanks once
Witness
again.
it.
Charlie Gross and me, Dave Lefkowitz, who is here hosting the 17th annual Total Theater Broadway Tony Show. We do it year after year after year, and thank goodness we're able to do it this year. And thank goodness, as he does every single week, David Sheward is with us in the neighborhood. Now, David, of course, writes for a bunch of different places, including TheaterLife.com and CulturalDaily.com, as well as his own blog, The David Desk. So first of all, welcome, David. How was your week?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm going.
My week is fine.
Good, good. Are you looking forward to the watching the Tonys tomorrow? Are you excited about just the
Yes.
season as a whole?
Yes, it's very strange because we just had another Tonys in September.
Right.
So it's kind of weird to have another one so relatively soon afterwards. But it was to catch up because of the COVID shutdown.
Right. Well, David, what's going to happen is we're going to have two different categories that David will talk about, and also Lesie Hoban Blake will talk about, and we can all do sort of a round robin-y thing while Leslie's logging in. Let's start with David because Leslie's here. She's trying to log in, which is great. So, but David Sheward, where do I have your stuff? Here they are. Your lead actor, excuse me, in a play. And
yes.
The categories, and they are Simon Russell Beale for the Lehman Trilogy, Adam Godley for the Lehman Trilogy, and Adrian Lester for the Lehman Trilogy, as well as David Morse, How I Learned to Drive, Sam Rockwell for American Buffalo, Rubin Santiago Hudson for Lackawanna Blues, and David Threlfall in Hangman. So it's like 7 people in the category, I think. That's if they could do that for every category, why don't they? But David Sheward, and welcome Lesie Hoban Blake. But David Sheward, what are your thoughts to begin with on lead actor in a play?
Well, it's sort of between David Morse in How I Learned to Drive and Simon Russell Beale in the Lehman Trilogy. The conventional wisdom has it that David Morse will win, and he's leading. I just looked on goldderby.com this morning to check my predictions and everybody else's predictions, and according to them, David Morse is going to win because he's in a play that's still running. And the 3 men in the Lehman Trilogy, that show is closed. And let me see. David Threlfall in Hangman is still running. Sam Rockwell in American Buffalo is still running. Let
me ask you specifically also, about the nominees. Like Sam Rockwell, I think, has divided people in terms of his teach in American Buffalo. Did you think it's a certainly interesting performance, but what did you think of it?
I thought it was interesting. It was certainly, how shall I say, it did what the role required, which was he's this big blustery guy who comes in and sort of knocks down, literally at one point tears down the scenery at one point when he has a fit and junks up the junk shop. I thought he gave a good performance. I saw the original Broadway production with Robert Duvall in 1977.
Yeah.
And in that, it was like, I thought Duvall was going to come off the stage and kill me. He was that intense. He was that real. Yeah. He was that real. But I think Rockwell doesn't really approach that. I don't feel scared of him. But I also don't get the, also the thing about the 3 characters in the play is they're kind of a family. And what their motives for what the crazy things they're doing is that they want to be together and find companionship in their weird, twisted, dysfunctional way. And
as we all do, as you and Lesie do every Saturday morning.
Every Saturday morning, right?
Yeah, and they're planning this robbery because they want to be a family and get companionship together in a sort of a weird way. And I didn't get that from Sam Rockwell. I did get it from Darren Criss, right. Who played Bobby, the young junkie kid.
He is the least junkie I've ever seen, though. But he looked like he stepped off GQ. I mean, it's like really.
No, but I got the sense from him that he was desperate he wanted these guys to be his dads, his fathers, and that's why he does the crazy, stupid things that he does.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please.
Yeah.
The only thing I saw was How I Learned to Drive, so I'm not going to talk about the acting, but I do know about David Mamet's comments in April, and I know how much they have turned so many people off to him as a playwright, to him. Is that coloring in any way anybody's feelings that you know of about this character? If you need me to elaborate, I will.
No, I don't think so. I think people are seeing this play was written,
77 or something like that?
Yeah, like 76. I mean,
when he was a loudmouth liberal instead of a loudmouth conservative.
Well,
yes,
no, but I think that I don't think people are allowing that to judge to color whether or not they're going to
Okay.
vote for the
I agree.
performance.
I don't think this is like an amazing American Buffalo that people are like, well, we think it's amazing, but we want to hurt Mammoth.
I don't know how the voters will go, but I followed a lot of the thread that was online in his tweet on that. And boy, were they after him and talking about, I used to like you and I used to like your plays and now I don't. And so I didn't see it. I have no way of knowing, but I just wondered.
Yeah,
just
really
for me personally, I can divorce his comments from the play itself, and I would not boycott this production or say, oh, we should never do another Mammoth play in the history of the world ever.
Well, I mean, David Sheward, you have an extra special thing because he was damning male teachers.
Well,
that was
those are two separate things, and I'm not going to say that I think we should never do a David Mamet play ever again.
Okay.
I mean, we could certainly.
Now, David, I want to get on to another.
To get back to this,
people in the category here. Before we get to, by the way, that's Leslie Hoban Blake. She is from 2 on the aisle. But David, let's also talk more about these other people, these actors in these plays, the Lehman trilogy, and Hangman and Lackawanna Blues, please.
Well, let's see. I am a Tony voter. Yes. So I voted for Simon Russell Beale in the Lehman trilogy because I thought it's 3 men playing all the characters in this multi-generational, fantastic production of the Lehman family. And Simon Russell Beale is one of the great actors of our era, of both British theater and now America. He does American theater upon occasion, but in world theater, he's one of the great actors, and he gave each character such an individual life and such a reality, both male and female. My favorite was when he was the sardonic wife of one of the Lehman brothers. I forget her name, but it was just a brilliant performance. He had all of this feminine. He was this feminine, nasty woman, and it was just an amazing performance.
And so you voted for him? Did you?
I voted for him. I think he'll edge out David Morse. I think David Morse was brilliant also, and he is recreating his role from the 1996, I believe, off-Broadway production of How I Learned to Drive. So there may be a little bit of, he did. It's the same performance. It's not the same performance, obviously. It's several decades later, but it was off-Broadway, so he was not eligible for the Tonys then. That may play into it a little bit, but I think that Beale's versatility, I think, will edge it a little bit. Morse could still win. It's between those two.
Another. You mentioned that he played all those roles. Well, I did see Rubin Santiago Hudson play everybody in Lackawanna Blues. Oh, okay. Then I'll be quiet. You go ahead.
I was just about to mention that also.
Leslie, and I mean, the thing about Lackawanna is that was done year after year, many years ago. It's a movie. It's a thing. Is that going to work against
that again?
Yeah.
Possibly. That show also is closed, and Rubin Santiago Hudson's autobiographical one-man show about growing up in this upstate New York boarding house with this lady Nana, who was his guardian, and he plays all the characters just like Simon Russell Beale and Adam Godley and Adrian Lesser do in the Lehman trilogy. I think that Simon Russell Beale still has the edge because it was more. It's kind of apples and oranges. There were lots of different characters. Rubin Santiago Hudson played them all brilliantly, but it was off Broadway in 2001. He did win the Drama Desk Award for Best Actor, which is very interesting and strange, because the Drama Desk have a separate solo category.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know why they didn't just put him in that if they wanted to, or they could have done what the Outer Critics did, which was the Outer Critics gave him a special award, as they did with David Morse, Mary Louise Parker, and Joanna Day, who were all recreating their roles from How I Learned to Drive. So those 4 performers, who were redoing their original productions got special Outer Critics Awards. The drama.
I want to move away from this category because we also have a category for Leslie Hoban Blake to tackle of Tony nominations for this year's Broadway Tony Awards. Now, Leslie, you really, really wanted to do a revival of a play.
I only wanted to do what I had seen the most of to make it fair. I mean, it's not fair otherwise. And that's the one category that I saw the most in. I just didn't see American Buffalo, but I saw everything else.
Well, Buffalo's in there, so is For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, How I Learned to Drive, Take Me Out, and Trouble in
Mind. I did not see Trouble in Mind either. That was very early on, and it was a very short run, so I did not see that. But and that was the one of all of them because it was by Alice Childress, and it was from 1955, and I turned my phone off, and it's ringing anyway.
Hello.
I'm sorry about that. Anyway.
Yeah, this is Alice Childress calling from the grave. How dare you?
Yes, how dare I use her name? How dare I invoke her?
How dare you miss my show?
I just wanted to say, David, in regard to what the two of you were saying, I wonder if there's going to be a new category now. Yul Brynner didn't live long enough to get into it, but Patti LuPone would be in it also.
The recreation of a role.
The recreation of a role, as a special category. That's it. I just wanted to say that. Okay. So I saw For Colored Girls off Broadway, also directed by Camille Brown, but she did not direct it. She did the choreography downtown, and now she is taking on the directorial role of For Colored Girls. And I have to be honest with you, that's what fell short for me in the exchange from downtown to uptown. I loved it downtown. Downtown for me, it was a perfect experience at the Public Theater. It was the most wonderful recreation of this play that I had only seen once before, For Colored Girls. It's a difficult play, and she turned it into a true choreo poem, which was the intention of Entosaki Change, the writer. It's in the title. It's a choreo poem. Then, of course, there's How I Learned to Drive, which made me want to take a shower the first time I saw it. It made me want to take 2 showers now because we know so much more, and we can see, and we see the grooming, and we understand. I mean, I didn't know when I first saw it all about what that's like, and to see the grooming going on, I started to squirm early as opposed to later. Take Me Out, I went for the naked guys. I stayed for the baseball. What can I say? But that was also not. It was okay. It wasn't ta-da for me. It was okay. The play that I really wanted to see, which was listed as a revival, of course, is The Skin of Our Teeth, which was never done. And suddenly there it is, yes. And it didn't get nominated, and that's my big snub. So I will come back to that. I would say for the plays that I saw, How I Learned to Drive is the one that really got to me. For Colored Girls, as much as I loved it, if it had been the same performance that I saw downtown, that would have been it. But things happened to it in the move that.
Well, and do you think this is going to win for Best Revival, or maybe will Take Me Out win? What do you think will win?
I think How I Learned to Drive has become so timely. It was timely then, but it's even more timely now. Take Me Out is also about a timely issue, but
I literally think that there was a ball player someone called the Jackie Robinson thing, and then there was that going back.
Right. I'm not saying it's not timely, but I'm saying that the way How I Learned to Drive has matured, I think is the word I'd like to use. The play has matured, and times have not changed. They've just gotten worse. So there you are. I did want to say a quick word about the 2 directors, though. I mentioned The Skin of Our Teeth. Liliana Blaine Cruz, to me, as a director myself, she is the director sine qua non. Look for her in the next couple of years to be the Susan Stroman, name your top directors, and she is going to be it because she has done such wonderful work. Camille Brown is new to the directing scene. She's a great choreographer. I wish her well coming up. Catherine Dunham is the last person I know of who tried to do choreography and director together. I've only seen Catherine Dunham dance. Yes, early African American, and I've only read about her. Liesl Tommy and Viney Carroll were nominated in the past. One in 1972, one in 2016 for the best director. That's a long time in between, and having an Afro-American director is coming. I know someone else has that category, but I would just like to My
An
2 cents for Liliana
African-American-
Plain Cruz.
An African-American woman director.
Woman director. Yes, I'm sorry. I meant to say woman director, definitely. But, you know, as a female director, I've been involved in all of these groups. We had a 50-50 thing going on where it would be 50% female directors in 2050. That was, and then it was 30 and 30. You know, well, now it's 2022 and we've got 2. And that's amazing to me that we actually got 2, because I've been part of these groups that, you know, we make noise and nothing ever happens. So I'm delighted to say, I'm sorry they have to be against each other, but I just hope one of them wins. That's it. That's my 2 cents.
Well, let me ask you for 4 more cents from the 2 of you in terms of your absolute favorite shows of, and it could be on Broadway, off, anywhere over the past season. So either one of you go and tell me.
First act of Skin of Our Teeth. I said that when I saw it. I said that when I talked to you before. The first act of Skin of Our Teeth for me is the best experience I had on Broadway this year. But then I didn't go to the musicals. You know, the only thing I saw was Mr. Saturday Night. So I can't really.
You didn't see the Panoply, but you were struck by Skin. I mean, I still don't like, and I thought the design of Skin of Our Teeth was fun. It made the first act fun. I don't ever need to see that.
I separated it out from the rest of the play, which is the problem. It's not the direction, it's the play. But I just thought that it just did everything perfectly. The direction of the second act, if you took out the dialogue, the second act.
You just had the roller coaster. Your thought. Well, first of all, your thoughts on Skin of Our Teeth. I'd be curious, as well as
My thoughts on Skin of Our Teeth.
Yeah.
Well, I acted in it in a non-equity production in Philadelphia when I was in college. I played Henry, the rebellious son, and so I always have a connection with the play. It's always been one of my favorite plays. So I disagree with you about the play itself. I think it's one of the more interesting, certainly, plays. And I remember taking it when I first read it when I was in high school. I would go to the library and read all the plays in the library just to read them. And that was one of the plays that really struck me. All of Thornton Wilder's plays have struck me as fantastic and innovative for their time. Right. And I thought this production was certainly interesting. I liked a lot of it. The play does have flaws. It is kind of overlong, and a lot of the mixed metaphors are kind of difficult to understand. And the stepping outside of the fourth wall, they had to rewrite some of the dialogue to make it more contemporary. I thought it was it was just a bit too long. That was my only problem with it.
I have to throw my 2 cents in, though. I never played in it, but I did audition for Sabina. And I never understood that monologue until I saw Gabby Deans do it. When I saw Gabby Deans do the, "Oh dear, the master not home yet," with the dog just sticking to the sidewalk. The whole thing was, and when she came out and said, "I don't understand any of this," I thought, well, neither do I, you know.
Well, that's
this production.
She's being the audience. She's the surrogate for the audience.
Right, exactly. And the problem is, I mean, the play won the Pulitzer Prize, but nobody liked it. The reviews were dreadful.
Well, somebody must have liked it because it had a fairly decent run.
No,
I understand that, but
David, go ahead.
Oh, and then I'll let you, David, your favorite show. But I have to say this, and I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. I may say this every week. The most important thing about Skin of Our Teeth for me is that, you know, because Beanie Feldstein from Funny Girl is a lesbian. If only Beanie Feldstein could marry Gabby Beans, she would be Beanie Beans. Wouldn't that most?
You know, it wouldn't be Gabby Feldstein. Wait, how do you know it wouldn't turn out to be Gabby Feldstein? What makes you think that she's going to be Gabby?
Or Beanie Feldstein Beans.
Yes, right.
All right. I'm sorry for breaking.
All right. So,
David Sheward, your favorite show of the season?
That's kind of hard. I did, in spite of being hit by a car and having 6 broken ribs and being.
Don't brag that you did everything and I didn't. Go ahead.
Well, I did. I didn't do everything, but
I'm a Freddy cat. That's like,
I did.
Well,
I did have COVID for a while. I got over it. Well, I tested negative finally after a while, but I did see quite a bit, and not every single thing. I did see every Broadway show, so I am qualified to vote for the Tonys. I would have to say the New York Drama Critics Circle choice for Best Play, which was A Case for the Existence of God by Sam Hunter at TOTALTHEATER, which was a 2-character play, very moving, about 2 young men who are kind of lost in their and what they have in common is they both have a little toddler girl, one by adoption and the other has custody by divorce, and they're both trying to keep their little girls, but the circumstances conspire almost against them. And it's a very moving play, and I think it has with two characters, it has a sort of a future in regional theater and repertory and so forth.
Well, you don't think they'll bring it to Broadway?
No, it's not a Broadway. No, it's not kind of a Broadway play. It wouldn't do well on Broadway, I don't think.
I mean, I really wanted to. I did not get to see it, but you are the second critic of the morning. It was either Joe Dziemianowicz or Zach Stewart, who also literally singled that play out as like a favorite moment.
For musicals, let me see. I think, well, A Strange Loop was from off Broadway from before. Okay. Let me see. What did let me see. The Revival Company I really enjoyed. I'm really sad that Mrs. Doubtfire had such a terrible fate and didn't win. I'm sorry, and only got one.
But it was good. Yeah.
And only got one Tony nomination, and it's going to. I hope Rob McClure wins, but I don't think he is. But that's for that musical actor segment. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was not innovative. It was a movie to stage transition, which is the trend nowadays. But I thought it did what it was supposed to do. It was very entertaining. And I thought Rob McClure he's now going to be in Little Shop of Horrors, which is great. I love Rob McClure. Which is great that he's working. But it's so sad that he keeps doing these shows which just miss.
I know, right?
I've loved him since Charlie Chaplin. I just thought he was so wonderful.
Yeah, and I voted for him. I voted for him for Best Actor in a Musical, but I'll let that segment discuss what the outcome of that will be.
To move on to our next segment, we have another person coming into the neighborhood. But
I just want to play a tiny violin for David and all of his bad luck this year, David. I'm really sorry you had such a bad time. And I just stayed home biting my nails, being afraid that something was going to creep under my door sill and kill me. So, I apologize. Well, and it's true. I'm making fun, but it's true. I admire your bravery and your tenacity.
Leslie, you had a rough year last year.
You had a bad year.
Yeah. So
and you made it through.
Good.
All right.
We all did.
We'll let you get on, David.
Let me just remind people. Leslie Hoban Blake and Charlie Gross, they co-host Two on the Aisle. You can watch them on the YouTube channel. Read David Sheward at theaterlife.com, culturaldaily.com, and his blog, The David Desk. Guys, I'll see you next week. Thank you for being
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
See you soon.
Happy Tonys. Happy.
Tomorrow. Big party tomorrow. 4 people. Big party.
I hope you have a fantastic time. Thank you, Leslie. Well, here on the Total Theater Tony Show, we have another person coming into the neighborhood to talk about theater, one of our favorite folks, someone I've known for probably 25, 30 years, in and out of the neighborhood. She is, and has been for so long, the critic for high drama. We're letting her on a little early. I hope that's not a bad thing. She's not supposed to be on until 11. But she's here, and we're going to make the best of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, won't you please welcome to the neighborhood, the delightful, and I love the hat. You're wearing a hat, I'm going to wear a hat. Hold on. We have this special, just for the Tonys. Come on. There we go. Now we're talking.
I'm setting up right now because in my panic that you were getting to me so soon, and I just got off the phone with someone, so I'm like,
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. I should have waited till 11, but I saw you've been waiting for like 5-10 minutes. I thought let's get you on.
After what happened to Ed, I wanted to be sure that I was, all set up properly.
So since you're here and you've been watching the show, which is that's kind of rare for the guests that they've actually been watching the program. Is there anything anybody has said that you 100% disagree with?
Oh,
or something? Tell me. Ooh,
first of all, I have to do my little shtick. I mean, the reason I'm wearing a hat. It's called a bowler hat.
Yeah.
In honor of Sondheim.
Right.
Which is, by the way, my favorite Sondheim song ever. It is the most brilliant song. It tells the entire story in that one song.
From Pacific Overtures, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now I'm ready to talk. I'm all set up.
Well, first of all, let's remind people they can actually write your reviews out too.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter. So you can get a more full review on Facebook because, with time constraint on television, we have to do a truncated version.
And speaking of television, you can watch High Drama on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, MNN.org. There it streams live, but you also you save the episodes, and people can watch those on Facebook.
Also, more important, it's on YouTube.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
We have over 100 subscribers now.
Yeah, the High Drama channel. Now, let's have some dramatic...
No. It's called Eva Heinemann.
I'm sorry, Eva Heinemann. Yeah, you got it.
And another thing is, don't get confused. I actually am named after an anime character called Eva Heinemann, spelled the same way from Monster. So I am not a cartoon. I might act like a cartoon, but no, you go to Eva Heinemann, High Drama, and you'll find all of our shows going way back.
Way back. It's true. So if you Google Eva Heinemann, the first 100 things that come up are some Japanese anime character. Yeah. It's like, no, look for this girl right here.
And not only do we do the show, sometimes our interviews are like really long or press conferences. So we have the full interview, full press conference. Sometimes like shows close before you get a chance to talk about them. So we put those reviews separately on. So there's a lot going on the YouTube, on the Facebook, MNN, and they show MNN like 3 times sometimes. They like my show so much, they show it every Saturday at 1:30 and sometimes Sunday morning.
Oh, yay. Well, that's fantastic. Now, Eva,
all of a sudden I'm looking, I'm like, oh, they're doing my show again on television. Oh, how nice.
Well, it's really nice that you're with us at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time here in the neighborhood for the 17th annual Total Theater Broadway Tony Show on Dave's Gone By. So
we've done this so often together. Used to do them once. We did it in the middle of the Grand Central Station, behind stage, and like where the garbage cans were, or backstage somewhere. We have done the show in weird places.
And now, everybody just puts a phone up wherever, and it's like, here's a show. But you're going to be talking about several shows because your category is featured actress in a play. And here are the nominees: Uzo Aduba from Clyde's, Rachel Dratch, who's in the comedy Pogus, Truly White is also in Pogus, Kenita R. Miller is in For Color Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, Felicia Rashad is in Skeleton Crew, or was in, and Cara Young in the show Clyde's. Your thoughts on who will win, who should win, anybody left out of the category? Eva Heinemann, go.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I made a cheat sheet for myself.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would, first of all, both Julie White was a Tony winner in 2007 for Little Dog Laugh. Felicia Rashad was a Tony winner in 2004 with The Raisin in the Sun, where she tied with Viola Davis in Intimate Apparel, which is now getting quite the run right now with
as a musical,
it will be. So I thought that was interesting. And Cara Young just won the Theater World Award, and Uzo Aduba just won the Outer Critics Circle Award. Rachel Dratch is just this comedian, and like someone else said, people never pay attention. Comedians are really the hardest thing to do because you either have it or you don't. Anyone can make you cry. A song can make you cry. I mean, a puppy can make you cry. Like making people laugh, that's hard. And then Kenita R. Miller, she's done so much theater. She's paid her dues. She's well respected, and she's a friend of mine. So I mean, I'm obviously going to root for Kenita R. Miller. Will she win? I don't think so, but I'd love it if she did. I would be the first one to jump up. I think Uzo Aduba, she might win because she's got the momentum of the Outer Critics Circles Award. I know she was Drama Desk nominated, although I said that dreadful word, which is like a 4-letter word to me. I hate the Drama Desk with a passion. I'm not going to swear like Ed did. But
you could, but you can ask you in 50 words or less, you might as well. Can you say why you hate? I mean, it's a personal thing with some of the people there, or just being part of it. They
kick me out. They kick me out. The only person who actually does go to off Broadway and Broadway, the only person who really is a Drama Desk voter, and they gave the stupidest reasons, like really ridiculous, and they were just out to get me. It was just complete evilness on their part. I will never forgive them. I mean, I don't care. Every Yom Kippur, Kol Nidre, they're the last holdout. I just will not forgive them ever. I still have revenge fantasies about them. I mean, I have made peace with all the other people that I thought I would hate forever. Now people have I don't know. It's just weird.
But you are a member of the Outer Critics Circle, right?
Oh, yes. I'm at Outer Critics Circle, League of Professional Theater Women, American Theater Critics Association. I mean, I am a very well-respected person. But
you are. And I want to ask you about this because you are someone who, for years, you're not someone who just sees all the Broadway shows or, only, or the major opera. You go like 6-7 times a week for 3 more decades to every show, everything all over the place, which is magnificent. So what was it like for you during that year and a half when there was nothing and then starting up again when, theater's back? What was it profound?
Well, here's the thing. You might say nothing, but as a theater goer, I found theater. I was on my computer seeing 3 or 4 plays a day. I mean, I think I saw more plays during COVID because it was nice because I didn't have to leave my seat and I could like run and go to the bathroom. I could eat. I could it spoiled me actually. I actually now hate having to rush to the theater and try to get there on time and having to sit next to people.
I know.
I hate people. Of humanity. I'm sorry. I'm a curmudgeon. I have turned into a crotchety old lady and proud of it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've been like that for 35 years, but you were always a people person. Now you're like, oh, yeah. But I feel like when I watched months ago, Diana, one of the musicals that's not really nominated for anything, but was there this season. But watched it on YouTube, on Netflix. And I was like, I didn't feel like if I could have seen it, not that I hated it, I wasn't one way or the other about Diana. It was just kind of there. But I was like, you know what? I didn't have to schlep on the railroad. I didn't have to try and run back to the train after the show. It wasn't too loud. I'm watching it on TV. We're taking a break. We're having some food, and we're going to watch Act 2. And it was like, I kind of like doing that. I hate to say. Not that, but it's also been meaningful to go back into a theater.
Oh yeah, it's also very intimate because they're looking at you. You're looking right into their eyes. But no, every time I go back to something that I haven't been to yet, like a theater that I used to go to all the time, like the first one I think was Dixon Place, I cry. I just flat out cry. I'm so happy to be there. I mean, when I got to go to Toft again, I cried. I was so happy. Of course, this horrible librarian ruined it for me. He yelled at me for laughing. I'm like, it's funny. I can't help it. I can't stop laughing.
Talk? Where was this?
The theater on film and tape. I love theater on film and tape. It is my favorite thing to do. I mean, during award season, I go back and see things. And it's just the most special place in the world. If you think Disneyland is, to me, it's Toft. I love Toft. And this has nothing against Toft. I love Toft. I worship Toft. I'm not worried. I'm just yelling at this one librarian who is just the meanest MFer in the world. I'm mad at the librarian, not Toft.
I want to forgive her on Yom Kippur either. But we did have Betty Corwin on the show before she died.
Oh,
years
God
ago.
bless her.
She founded that.
I know. And she also founded a League of Professional Theater Women too.
Wow.
We love our Betty Corwin. And speaking of Toft, no. This is a good segue now because you want to ask me what I love this year. And I actually love this show so much. I wanted to pay Toft to produce it. So I wanted to have this preserved forever. It was that special to me. But it cost like about $10,000 or more to do Toft. Wow. I was shocked. But yes, okay. So as I said, it was the American Theater Critics Association, and we were at this luncheon at Sardi's, and Will Eno was there talking about his latest project, which was going to be Gnit, G-N-I-T, which was his take on Peer Gynt. Right. And Peer Gynt just happens to be an all-time favorite play. Whenever anyone does Peer Gynt, in whatever form it takes, I am there because it's like sometimes merrily we roll along. It's like this puzzle, like, can someone solve why this isn't working? It's brilliant, but something's always off. And he figured it out. It was the most brilliant version of Peer Gynt I have ever seen. Everything about it was perfect. I loved it. Will Eno is a genius. If it's done regionally, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully this is all over the world. Hopefully will produce. If you want to do Peer Gynt properly, find Will Eno's G-N-I-T, Gnit, and do it.
Well, wait. Where did you see it? He was talking about it. You said, where'd you see it? Where was it done?
Oh, it was a theater for a new audience in Brooklyn.
Yeah, oh,
You
okay.
know, the Jeremy Horowitz, company. No, it's right by BAM. I don't know why people don't go more. And BAM did the worst thing I have ever, the most egregious. You say we are allowed to swear?
Yes, you are. Go.
Oh my God. Because I even said when I did the review, I said, I'm swearing right now. I mean, I just lost it. Cyrano de Bergerac is my it was my directing project in college. I love Cyrano so much. This version they had, not only did he not have a nose, but at least they talked about the nose. But you know the story of Cyrano de Bergerac, right? Christian, beautiful. He's with the nose, ugly, low self-esteem on both their parts. Anyway, in the battle scene, what happens instead of them like fighting over Roxanne, they have a passionate kiss.
Wait, the two guys or him and
Yes.
Okay, all right. And
Roxanne is turned into an alcoholic slut who is the kept woman of De Guiche, which is just the opposite of what a character is. And they even took away his last line. Instead of saying they can't take away my panache or my plume or any of that, no, he goes, so the last words of a hero.
Wow.
Oh God, I think everyone involved in that shit, I can't even say shot anymore because of the gun violence, but my God, I hated them.
Was that the one with Peter Dinklage or was that a different?
No. Peter Dinklage is another terrible one because I'm like, okay, so you're a dwarf, big deal. You're the most handsomest dwarf. I mean, I would fuck you in a second. Come on. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But no, that was just stupid. It was bad music. But no, anyway, but I don't know how much time I have left, but I want to talk about some other stuff too, because
let's give you 2 more minutes just because you're Eva Heinemann and this is fantastic. So yes, what else do you want to talk about?
Okay, because some other shows I like that other people would not know about, because like you say, people don't go off Broadway and they don't notice things like I do. Right. There was this play called The Antelope Party that was done at the Wild Project with Will Rowland was in it, and it was about these people who were this lovely little group that loved My Little Pony, and they dress up and do cosplay, and then it turns this ugly like cult thing with going after people. It was just like reverse rhinoceros. It was scary as heck. It was brilliant. And Red Bull's The Alchemist, I mean, that was so good. And
I saw that streamed, actually. That was fun.
Yeah, and Bedlam's Persuasion and Wolf Play, which was a wonderful take on, you adopt a kid. It was like the existence of God, where, you have a kid and it gets taken away from you. That was cleverly done with the puppet. And Douglas Carter Bean's Fairy Cakes was just a delight. There was this wonderful pantomime with Dick Rivington and the cat. And I happen to like the musical The Visitor very much. And there's wonderful theaters.
Well, that was David Hyde Pierce. Was that the one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And some shows you should go to, some companies. You should see The Seeing Place, Metropolitan Playhouse, Irish Rec, New York Theater, Pershing Square, Signature Centers, Watering Hole. When they opened up the theater, you got to go to, it's like they christened the theater before the season started. You got to go to all the different stages and be on the stage, and they did a little thing. And I have to mention one more thing because it's really, really important. This is why I have a cheat sheet. One of my other favorite plays, because in all this representation, is you got the Blacks and the Asians and everyone else. But nobody brings up the Jews. We're not part of diversity or representation. In fact, they take away parts from us. They always make sure when they do colorblind casting to go not for the white actor, but for the Jewish part and take it away. They're trying to erase this. That's why I love Prayer for the French Republic, a real Jewish play that got critical acclaim. It's getting awards from the outer critics and that which we shall not name. And I just love that play. And coming back in June, I think at the Cherry Lane, is this comedian, Alex Edelman, Just for Us, who is this Jewish comic. And it just tells the funniest story of how he infiltrates this anti-Semitic group and pretends not to be Jewish. And when it's just brilliant. It's so funny.
Oh boy. Well, this is great, because this is why we have these people on the show, because you're not just looking backward at the season, but giving us reason to be like, oh, this is coming in June. Go see that, and this will be happening. And all these theater companies, not just on Broadway, but all over New York, reasons to go see them, reasons to be like, they're doing work. Maybe this individual play won't be your favorite, but they're doing good work. And Eva, you've been doing good work by having high drama both on Manhattan Neighborhood Network and now, of course, on YouTube and Facebook as well. Everybody go see it. And remember, it's high with an exclamation point, drama for theater reviews. We've been doing it week after week for so many years, and I hope you keep doing it for decades hence. Eva Heinemann, good Shabbos to you, and thank you so much for being with us in the neighborhood on our special show.
It was a pleasure as always. Now let's go and eat some cheesecake.
Yes, why not? And well, I've got some more show to do, but afternoon I will do. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Eva Heinemann in the neighborhood. Oh my God, what a joy. I should have her and Ed Rubin together just going after stuff. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this a delight? I'm not going to say let's take a break, but I do want to take a couple of minutes before we have some more interviews, more theater experts joining us to talk about the theater. So I don't even have to comb my hair. I just wear a hat for 10 minutes and it just, tamps everything down. I want to one little amusing thing that I wanted to share, which I think it speaks to Broadway, and it speaks to what they aspire to, but at the same time, the realities of what Broadway is. Because everybody's talking about, the season, obviously, it was thrown for a loop by the resurgence of COVID, by Omicron. They had all these waves of the pandemic that started when everything shut down in March of 2020. And literally, there was no Broadway theater. There was no off-Broadway theater. There was little pockets of off stuff. Everybody started streaming. And it took more than a year, like a full year into a summer, for things to really, Bruce Springsteen came back, and that helped a lot. And then, these other shows, until finally this season was amazing. There were, how many productions? I have this down somewhere. I wrote it down, and I'm trying to find out where I put it. I wish I don't know where I did put it. Maybe I don't have it. But grosses were down, from where they were in 2019. Well, yes, there were. Not only, is it tough to bring audiences back, we didn't have the tourism that New York normally gets to see the big, long-running shows that are still mostly doing well, which is kind of amazing. If you're not getting people from Italy, from Japan, from England, from Australia, coming to Manhattan and plunking down hundreds of dollars to see shows because they're only in town for this, if they're not there, you're not going to get that money. And New Yorkers aren't necessarily going to run back and see, Chicago or Aladdin again, unless they have kids or something. So, you're going to miss out on that. You also had shows sometimes closing for a week at a time or certain days at a time because one major cast member would get COVID, and that would happen, and then they have to really close the show again because a couple of other people would get it, and they didn't want the audience getting it, and they had to do it. And that's a lot of money lost. Now, all the producers of these shows, most of them, got a lot of money from grants from the government during the pandemic to make them come back, to make sure that Broadway would and could come back. And it really, really helped because so many of these shows behind me, and of the 30-something shows that opened, would have closed. They would not have made it because there's no way to pay all the actors during a year and a half closer of a show to hold on to them, right? So, but if you suddenly gain millions of dollars to say, here, we know you can't do anything, but we want to make sure you'll come back. And so many of them did, which is quite wonderful. And I think all things considered is pretty extraordinary how Broadway has rebounded. But at the same time, something struck me as kind of funny. The Tony Awards are tomorrow, right? They are tomorrow night. They're going to be in Radio City Music Hall. It will be streamed on CBS TV and also on Paramount. Will have the first hour. If you want to go to the Tony Awards, there's an audience there. It isn't just the nominees and their families. There's regular people can pay to go and sit in the Tony Awards. And they've even, to make things more open and more available, they've made Tony tickets, some, available to students. There is a student discount Tony ticket, right? So they sent out an email about a week and a half ago. Student tickets available for the 75th Annual Tony Awards. Students must present a valid student ID at the legendary Radio City Music Hall box office on Tuesday, June 7th, 10 a.m. Well, it was last week, obviously, for the special offer. Cool. And you probably, I'm guessing, even at Radio City, gotta wear a mask and, well, maybe not. Maybe present a vax certificate, maybe not. But this is what got me. This is student tickets, because they want to get young people into Broadway. They want to bring the next generation to come into the theater and see shows and get addicted to live performance and musicals and plays. So, okay, let's make some student tickets available to the Tony Awards at Radio City. Tickets will be priced at $250, plus a $6 facilities fee. And people say Broadway is elitist. I know there are ways to see the regular run of Broadway shows, especially this past year, more inexpensively. There's TDF, there's the tickets booth, as always. There's these organizations that you can join, and this is not just for students, this is for everybody, where if a show isn't selling well, you join that organization for whatever it is, $100 a year, and suddenly, there's a ticket plus a facilities fee, and you're paying $10. And this is absolutely true. And every student in New York should know this, and every adult in New York who says theater's too expensive, it's crazy, I can't go, should know this. But, it would be nice if a student ticket to even the Tony Awards in Radio City, which is bigger than any of the other Broadway theaters, there's probably more than 2,000 seats, if they could have made some student tickets available in the back for $40, maybe $50, a loss leader, I get it, but, and by the way, if you, as an adult, if there are any tickets still available, want to buy one, those are $750. So it is a big discount, right? And I think they start at $750. That is a significant, $250 is what, it's a 2/3 off, isn't it? Still, pretty funny. And the only other, the one big Sturm und Drang of everybody just pulling together, of trying to make Broadway come back, and come back healthy, and stay back, even with tourists gone, even with New Yorkers being afraid, even with Omicron, and BA2, and BO17, or whatever the hell it is, really taking a chunk right out of the holiday season. I wasn't going to shows between November and like March again. I thought I'd be seeing all these things, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to get my wife sick. I don't want to get sick. I'm just I'm not going to ride the train. Wasn't until March that I just said, I'm going to plunge back in, and I'm sure a lot of people felt like that, and it hurt. It hurt the season for sure. But one of the things that was the big controversy of the year was Charlotte St. Martin, who is the head of the Broadway League, the spokesperson also for the Broadway League, the League of American Theaters and Producers, as they used to call it. And she is, she went out and said, trying to explain about the season, trying to see how they were putting all this together and working with the unions to make sure they could bring people back and actors back in a safe way. And she said, well, one of the issues that we're dealing with is inviting audiences who are paying what they pay for a ticket, audiences from all over the country, all over the world, and they don't want to necessarily come to the theater, open up, a playbill, and get that sheet that says, well, this person's out, and that's their understudy, and that's their sub, and that's their standby, and like half the people that they're coming to see who were, on the marquee of the theater are gone. They're not in that night. And it's grumbly, and it's grudgy. And suddenly, people took what she said the wrong way if in the theater community, and they thought, maybe in some ways she slightly was, she was knocking understudies and subs and standbys. I don't think she was doing that at all. She wasn't trying to say, oh, they're not good, oh, they're not rehearsed, oh, they're not prepared, oh, they're going to give a subpar performance. Because that's, stage managers and assistant directors and associate directors and choreographers make sure that the shows run, and they run in a very professional, terrific way. But but what she is saying has legitimacy too. You know, the star of a show, the major players of a show, they get the script, they're there for the whole rehearsal process, they work it day after day, week after week. So after 3, 4, 5 weeks performance, they're doing the roles that they've been trained to do. The understudy comes in, the standby comes in, they're ready, but they're going into the shoes of this other person, often wearing the same tailored outfits that they are, trying not to deviate very much from what the star is doing, so as not to throw off all the other people on stage, or the lighting that's set, the choreography that's set, the set that's moving around. So in some ways, you are not necessarily, sometimes as people have found out with Julie Benko subbing for Beanie Feldstein in Funny Girl, sometimes it works out really, really great, and you have a star in the making. Other times, they're great, and the audience is with them, and they get through it, and they make it through it, but you're not seeing the star and the performance that everybody was supposed to see on opening night. So I'm going to, on some level, defend Charlotte St. Martin's statement in terms of audiences coming in, because she's about the producers and the money coming in. She's not from the actors, she's not from Equity, she's from the people who are actually putting on the shows and saying, it's tough. It's tough when you have an audience member who books for a show and the show is canceled that morning because someone has COVID. You know, and are they going to be skittish about rebooking? And it's tough when an audience member says, oh, you know, I'm reading about this show is this, and Patty is out of that, and Beanie's out of this, you know, and I get there and say, oh, you know, I don't want to see 4 understudies, 2 of them in main roles. That's all she was saying, and I think there's some legitimacy to it, as well as absolutely acknowledging the extraordinary work of actors, dancers, understudies, standbys, who have to be ready at a moment's notice, who work their butts off, and who are very often great. So there's 2 sides to the story. That was the big controversy. Enough controversy, enough yapping of me. Now let's get back to some more fun of more critics weighing in on this season and these Broadway Tony Awards and nominations. So now let's get to, I need to get my page, which I can, yes, now I can find it. Yes, I can. Let's talk to the writer for New York Stage Review. He's also a member of the New York Drama Critics Circle. I'm going to share my screen for a moment, or for more than a moment, perhaps. Well, actually, let me get that up. Hold on. Let me, I'll get this up first. Where is he? Here it is. His name is David Finkle. He's been on the show.
Here on the Total Theater Broadway show.
I gotta find it now.
Dave Lefkowitz talking with a critic who's been on our program a couple of times now.
Oh dear, stop it. That's just the audio. I have the video for you. Let me redo that. Shame on me. Here it is. I'm gonna open this up. That's better. I'm going to now properly share my screen. Let me X out of that and do it again. Oh, see, as we move more and more into the show, things kind of fall apart a little bit. But let's find it. There's Charlie that says that. I hope that's... Oh, there it is. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that botched introduction there, but from New York Stage Review, David Finkle.
Here on the Total Theater Broadway show, Dave Lefkowitz talking with a critic who's been on our program a couple of times now, and we are delighted and thrilled to have him back. He writes for New York Stage Review, which you can access by nystagereview.com. Also find out about all the other stuff he's doing at davidfinkle.com, Finkle, because that's how he spells his name. He is a member of the New York Drama Critics Circle. He's written for Huffington Post and the New York Times, and you can buy his new novel, Keys to an Empty House, from Plum Bay Publishing. You can get that on Amazon and all the usual places books come from. So first of all, welcome, David Finkle, and real quick, tell us about the book.
Keys to an Empty House. It's my new novel. I like it. It's actually, I will tell your listeners and viewers, which I don't tell everybody else, but the impetus for the book started with my sense of what I knew about Marvin Hamlish, and who of course wrote one of the classic musicals of all time, A Chorus Line, and he wrote a couple of other rather good musicals. They're Playing Our Song is certainly one, and Smile was pretty good too. But I think everybody thinks that Marvin Hamlish had a great career. He did not see himself as having a career that peaked after or reached the peak of his earlier when he was working in his 20s and 30s. And the idea that someone like him thought he never reached the heights of A Chorus Line and The Way We Were and the ragtime for Sting. And so I was fascinated by it. And so I've written, the novel is about a very successful author who also decides when he's in his late 20s or late 30s that he's probably peaked, that he's not going to fulfill his promise, and so decides he's not even going to try to and stops writing. And that's really the premise, and lives for 30 years just drifting on all the money he's made, but not terribly happily. And he moves back to New York for the first time in 25 years, takes a rental on East 9th Street in Manhattan, and something happens to him there after he's been in place for a couple of months that changes the way his life is going to go.
Oh, and, I hope it's a happy ending, and he becomes creative. And don't tell.
I'm not going to tell, and I don't tell in the book either.
Oh.
But it's not an unhappy ending. It's a happy ending. Okay. But I don't answer all of the questions.
Well, you've got to get the book. It's called Keys to an Empty House, and you can find out more at davidfinkle.com. But the most important reason for you to be here today on this June 11th is, well, it's our Total Theater Tony show, and you're going to be weighing in on a category, musical score, since we both do love musicals, and the nominees are Flying Over Sunset with music by Tom Kitt and lyrics by Michael Corey, Mr. Saturday Night with music by Jason Robert Brown and lyrics by our friend of the neighborhood Amanda Green, Paradise Square with music by Jason Howland and lyrics by Nathan Tyson and Masi Asare, 6, which is composed by Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, and A Strange Loop, the talk of the town, by Michael R. Jackson. So, David Finkle, your thoughts on the category?
Well, you just held up what I think is the best score this year, and I think it will win, although it's got competition from 6. But I think A Strange Loop, which has been a Pulitzer Prize winner, and Michael J. Jackson, Michael R. Jackson. So I think it's by far and away the best score.
What makes it so good? Why do you feel that way?
I feel that way because Michael R. Jackson it's a very semi-autobiographical musical. He was an usher who wanted to write a musical. It's about an usher who wants to write a musical, and all the other characters besides the character of Michael R. Jackson, who I think he doesn't call himself that. He gives himself another name. But all of the other people on stage are his thoughts. And so the score, the songs are all, I find very inspirational and coming out of what he feels about himself. So it's a very, he's divulging his inner thoughts. And they're all strong and conflicting thoughts about where he sees himself and where he'd like to be. And I think, and by the time it's over, it's extraordinarily moving, the musical. And I can't say that I have raced to get the original cast album and have listened to it. It's not, I think the songs are very strong in the context of it. That I can't say of the other nominees. The big competition is 6, which happens to be a musical that I hold in not very high esteem. I'm not a big fan of 6, which to me, as I think your viewers may know or may not know, that the 6 represented are 6 women who come out in sparkly costumes with an on-stage band, and each of them is one of the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and they're in a competition to see who Henry VIII treated worse, the worst of them. And so and for me, almost every song sounded exactly alike. There was one that was slower than the others, but it's all belted, and it's only 80 minutes long, but it's 80 long minutes long.
Well, it's a song cycle in some ways more than a theater piece.
That's right. It's more like a concert presentation.
Now, what about some of the other nominees in this category? Paradigm Square, Mr. Saturday Night, Flying Over Sunset. Any love for them?
I have probably the least love for Flying Over Sunset. I think that Tom Kitt can write very serviceable scores. Michael Corey, who wrote the lyrics for Grey Gardens, for one thing, is very clever. But I think that it's the setup, the musical being about 3 people, 3 very different people who have become, and I'm not sure they ever met. I don't think in the James Lapine book, he only implies that they met. The 3 of them got together once to discuss their various hallucinogenic experiences on LSD. It's not a very, maybe by somebody else might have written something that was very, very, very imaginative, but I don't think that book or the songs really measure up to very much, and it's very expensive looking. It's a Lincoln Center. Everything at Lincoln Center is always beautiful to look at, but this, I think it was a Beowulf Borat set, did not hold up for me. I didn't like it.
Well, while we still have a little bit of time, I also want to see if you felt anything, if you felt either Mrs. Doubtfire or Diana or The Little Prince should have or could have been in this category for best score, or it's fine that they were all left off.
I thought The Little Prince was dreadful. I really had no regard for it. Diana, I don't think the score was any worse than those that were nominated, but it became sort of a joke. It came into New York as kind of a joke. There were 9 musicals that were eligible to be voted. Well, 2 of them weren't because MJ and Girl from the North Country are both what would be known as jukebox musicals, although Girl from the North Country is much more, and it's my favorite musical of the last couple of years. I would say of the last 3 years, it's the best musical I've seen. Mrs. Doubtfire, I think, is a so-so score, not very interesting to me, and I feel the same way about Mr. Saturday Night, which Amanda Green and Jason Robert Brown, they can be awfully good when they're at their best. I didn't think they were at their best with this score. So
now let me ask you, as long as we're on the subject of something that you did love, you're saying that the Bob Dylan musical was your favorite musical the last 3 years. That answers one question. What might have been your favorite play on or off Broadway of this whole past season?
It's an off-Broadway play called Prayer for the French Republic by Joshua Harmon. And I think it's maybe the most important play I saw this year. It's been nominated. It's lost in many of the awards that have already been presented or announced. And but I think it's which takes place in 2 periods in the 20th century about a Jewish family and their forebears living in Paris at a time when Paris is suddenly having a surge of anti-Semitism. And he was there doing a production of his play called Bad Jews, a wonderful previous play he did about 10 years ago. And while he was in Paris, he picked up what was going on there, and that was the impetus for his writing this play, which I think is awfully good. And I will say my favorite musical this year, there were 2. I would say that Harmony, by which is Bruce Suskind and Barry Manilow, I would say was probably marginally my favorite new musical. And the second one was Shana Taub's Suffs. And I regard Shana Taub as one of the great new talents. I've been watching her career for several years, and I think she really has it. And this had a wonderful score. It was extremely good. It had flaws, but it was, and it's closing very soon. It may have already closed by the time this is being.
It ran into a COVID thing over there, missed performances and like so many.
Well, Shana Taub, who played the leading part, could not do the opening night performance, of all things. Here she'd worked on it for years, and then suddenly it gets to open, and she can't do that performance. But
it might come back though, so that's what I'm sure.
Well, there's talk about moving it to Broadway, and I think there's probably talk about moving Harmony to Broadway too, because it was done off Broadway at the Museum of Jewish Heritage, but the creative team involved with it was all the best people from Broadway.
Manilow's been trying to get, Van Sussman have been trying to get that show to Broadway literally like 15, 20 years ago.
If not more.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a wonderful piece. And in it, Chip Zien who's always been great, gives the best performance of his career. He's really remarkable.
Now, can I ask you, last question that we have for David Finkle on this broadcast, on this episode, is what was the first show that you went back to see after the pandemic? And did you have that feeling of walking back into a theater? Was it powerful, or was it just, oh, I'm back in the theater, hey?
Oh, no, it was great to be back in the theater. And this past week, I went back to see on successive nights the revival of Company, which has the kind of score that nothing that opened this year has anything approaching the Stephen Sondheim score for that. And the next night I went back to see, because I'd seen it twice before, and I think it was a remarkable piece of work, Conor McPherson's Girl from the North Country, which used all those, and it used all of the Bob Dylan songs. It's not really a jukebox musical because it's so much more than that. And when you hear these songs, snippets of songs that they're put together in funny ways, they're not directly out of what the characters are feeling. They're kind of oblique comments on them. When you hear them in the context of a play, you suddenly think Bob Dylan's lyrics. You can see why he got the Nobel Prize in 2016, because his lyrics are trenchant and timely and timeless and just marvelous. And you think, yes, he was writing true literature when he was doing his songs, and here we hear it. And he's now, Conor McPherson gave him the opportunity to prove that. To me, anyway.
Well, speaking of true literature, I want to remind people that they can buy David Finkle's book, Keys to an Empty House, available on Amazon and all the places that books are sold. But check out his website, davidfinkle.com, and of course, read his reviews at New York Stage Review, nystagereview.com. David Finkle, I wish you great health and much, much more theater and great shows in the season ahead. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, and thank you for the plug, the repeated plug. Always greatly appreciated. So let's keep singing Broadway songs.
Yeah, and you could do worse than Bob Dylan songs too. So yes, let's sing them all.
Absolutely.
All right, bye-bye now, and we're blowing in the wind.
Bye.
Well, David Finkle there in the neighborhood, sharing his thoughts. We've had so many wonderful people who have just joined us on this episode of the show. It is, by the way, the 853rd episode of Dave's Gone By, which I think is pretty amazing, and I'm very, very proud of indeed. But we have still more to do for you. We'll probably be here until about 12:30. So if you think it was just a 3-hour show, no, it's a typical Dave's Gone By. We go overtime. And we're also, Eva Heinemann was kind of complaining about the anti-diversity shown to Jewish people sometimes on Broadway, where Jewish roles are recast with non-Jewish people. But we have no shortage of Jewish people on Dave's Gone By. And also the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Saul Solomon. Rabbi Saul was on our very first episode of the show back in October of 2002. We're very close. I mean, I helped him shoot 10 episodes of his hilarious show that he did on cable. You can see all of this at his website, shalomdammit.com. And he's a theater person. He did the one-man musical Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Sal Solomon off Broadway at the Richmond Shepherd Theater, and it was at the Roy Arias Theater, and he's hoping to bring it back someday soon. You can also see footage of that, in fact, the whole show, if you go to his website, shalomdammit.com. But what Rabbi Sal does for us on this program, he often interviews a lot of people, and he brings us his rabbinical reflections, his mini sermons, and he has one every year about the Tony Awards and the Jewishness therein. So, without further ado or a don't, we're going to bring Rabbi Sal, of course, back into the neighborhood. I'm just going to find the file here. We got to get to it. Hold on. And then get to the video, which is there. And then share the screen again, which I can do. Just give me one mo. I believe this should be it. You should be looking at that. We're going to load it up. And the next voice you hear and see will be very, very Jewish, from Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York, Rabbi Sal Solomon.
Hello, it's me, Rabbi Sal, with Rabbinical Reflections for you all. I come from Temple Sons of Bitches here in Great Neck, New York. Shut up and pay attention to me. Shalom, damn it! This is Rabbi Sal Solomon with a rabbinical reflection for Tony Award season 2022. Hard as it is to believe, horrible as it was to conceive, New York went without live theater for a year and a half. From March 2020 through August of last year, shows were shut while Manhattanites were shut in. Waves of pandemics came and went. We watched COVID go from a death sentence to a bad flu to a nasty achoo, with the level of illness and contagion changing faster than Jessica Simpson's weight. Eventually, Broadway's rewards outweighed the risks, at least to desperate producers and out-of-work actors, and theaters reopened their doors. Not that they made it easy. Between long lines, bag searches, will-call windows, pissy ushers, and flash mobs to reach the toilets, getting into a show made you long for the grace and delight of airport security checks. On top of that, before even reaching the lobby, you had to stand outside holding your bag, your ticket, your proof of vaccination, and your legal ID simultaneously. Even an octopus would think, how many friggin' arms am I supposed to have? Compounding this annoyance is having to wear a KN95 throughout the entire theater experience. If I wanted to live life with a mask on to avoid breathing in, I'd move to Staten Island. Now, I get it. Broadway producers hope to minimize the risk of transmission, so they compel you to wear your mask every second you're in the theater. Unless, of course, you bought a $15 drink at the bar, in which case the COVID germs are magically vaporized by the alcohol. And what better way to enjoy a drink or a selfie or a sneeze than with a Nazi usher yelling at you to pull your mask up the millisecond that you're done? It's enough to drive the most dedicated theater geeks from the Nederlander to Netflix, from the Schuberts to Showtime, and from Drew Jamson to Jersey Shore. Patti LuPone can hissy fit all she wants. A bunch of rich, unmasked actors telling the people who pay them, do as I say, not as I do, is just abyssal tone deaf. And speaking of deaf, my ears are still ringing from MJ, the Michael Jackson musical. I guess that's to drown out the cries of the audience going, good show, but you might have mentioned the underage sodomy. Seriously, though, for all my own kvetching, it is a blessing and a minor miracle that Broadway came back after COVID, and not crawling back, but roaring, with 34 new shows and 56 productions in all. Fabulous invalid indeed. It's like a guy with no legs getting out of a wheelchair and running a 5K. It's like Garth Drabinsky going to prison for investor fraud and then being allowed to capitalize a new Broadway show. Oh wait, that actually happened. The buzzword for the 2021-22 season was diversity, with Black, Hispanic, Asian, gay, straight, transgender people all getting more opportunities and visibility than ever in Broadway history. Of course, I'm old, white, and Jewish, so I don't care about that. What I care about is my people, the traditional Broadway creators and audience. With all those old Sakrochanas dying of coronavirus in 2020, would there be enough geezers to fill the seats the way they have for 100 years? So far, so normal. Some shows are big hits for no reason, some flop for the same no reason. Trying to predict what will click and what will clunk is like guessing the weather in Pittsburgh on March 9th, 2024. I'm thinking cloudy, but who knows? I'm glad to say that on stage, even with all the BIPOCing, there was still room for Jewing. Perhaps first and foremost, you have Best Play nominee, The Lehman Trilogy, staged by half-Jewish, all-brilliant Sam Mendes. The play is about three brothers from the old country who become textile middlemen while trying to remain orthodox. Eventually, they build a financial empire, and then it crumbles when investors realize they're not actually investing in anything. Can someone say NFTs? Meanwhile, the Lehman Brothers' offspring assimilate to the point that they're indistinguishable from Goyim. And the point of the play? America is a seductive country that can make your dreams come true, but also force you to make choices that aren't exactly kosher. We find another Jewish American success story in Funny Girl, the tale of Fanny Brice, who brought Jewish humor to the Ziegfeld Follies and gay icon status to Barbra Streisand. The new revival of Funny Girl has an even Jewier Jewess, Beanie Feldstein, and here's a big shock. Beanie is not Barbara. Okay, are you over it? Reports say Beanie, who did not get a Tony nomination, is very funny and appealing, and if her voice isn't the greatest star, her shortcomings still don't rain on her parade. Now, it would be nice if she showed up 8 times a week instead of making the audience play Guess Who's on Stage Tonight, but Julie Benko, the Shiksa understudy, is no slouch, and you hear more Yiddish words in Funny Girl than you do anywhere outside Borough Park. Now, how about some other categories with Jews in them? Stephen Sondheim co-wrote Company, of course, a classic look at marriage that this time changes the lead character from a boy into a girl. Hey, as long as she isn't doing university swim competitions, that's fine with me. And there's a scene where a Shagitz groom, about to marry his longtime boyfriend, quails over having his very own Jew, as well he should. The Jews in Caroline or Change, being revived, aren't quite so ideal. Leave it to Tony Kushner to treat Lanzmann seriously, while also making them racist, microaggressive, hypocritical, and obsessed with money. All right, I guess they are Jewish, and I sure wish I could pay a black maid $20 a week. Now, be that as it may, another flawed but sympathetic Jewish character is Buddy Young Jr., a.k.a. Mr. Saturday Night, the, you should pardon the expression, titular protagonist of Billy Crystal's new musical based on his old flop movie. It's about a Borscht Belt comic turned TV comedy icon turned frustrated has-been, basically the Al Franken story. I will say Mr. Saturday Night the musical works better than Mr. Saturday Night the movie because Crystal really is 74 years old. So now, when his character coughs up phlegm, you can see the green in a handkerchief. And speaking of musicals, the Goyish girl from the North Country reappropriates classic songs by Bob Dylan, FKA Robert Zimmerman. Yes, I know, Dylan dabbled in Christianity for a while, but hey, I played poker last week. That doesn't make me Nicky Arnstein. In terms of Tony-nominated actors, well, most of them are people of color, and I don't mean the pale, sickly color of Chassids. Jewish nominees are few and far between. But we do have Rachel Dratch in the door-slamming farce POTUS. Dratch spends half the play wandering around in a stupor, and she's hysterical doing it. I only wish my cousin Ida were half as funny meandering around the nursing home. But we do have another Jewess nominee, Mare Winningham. Before you spit up your borscht, yes, she was raised Roman Catholic, but she rejected you-know-who in her teens, and in her 40s took an Introduction to Judaism class that set her on the path of righteousness and rugelach. She even put out an album of Jewish-style country music. I guess instead of a truck driver guzzling whiskey in his four-wheeler, she has a lawyer sipping Manischewitz in his Prius. But Winningham is the real deal. She told Jewish Weekly in 2004 that although her children aren't Jewish, they do help her rate brisket recipes. Close enough. Anyway, mazel tov to all the Tony nominees, Jewish and non, the unfairly overlooked, and everyone who did their best to make sure 42nd Street once again had dancing feet. If Broadway grosses haven't climbed back to where they were in 2019, and if Broadway producers are struggling to make shows naturally inclusive rather than pandering to a woke mob that doesn't even go to the theater, and if Broadway audiences can put up with wearing face condoms a few more weeks or months, and if we can get over mourning that Gilbert Gottfried will never get to play Lear, we may just have an even better season ahead in 2022-23. We can only hope and pray. This has been a rabbinical reflection from Rabbi Sal Solomon, Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Curtain going up, up, up!
Some Rabbi Sal Solomon there. Gotta have him, gotta love him. Find out more about him at shalomdammit.com. And he'll also, again, he'll be posting his rabbinical reflection there if you want to see it again. And we're just thrilled with him. And he also has a Twitter feed at Rabbi Sal Solomon. Well, we have a few minutes till noon Eastern time here in the neighborhood doing our Tony show. We're going to go a bit past noon, as we do almost every week, with more show, with more guests. As a matter of fact, since we've been talking about Tony nominees with so many theater critics, why don't we hear from an actual nominee this year? And certainly Leslie Hoban Blake was taken with the revival of The Skin of Our Teeth. I saw it and I have lots of reservations about the play and also the production, but very few with the set design, which is pretty amazing. We have a couple of minutes with Adam Rigg. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties and didn't have him as long as we wished, but we do have some, I mean, of course he's going to be, you know, a design person with the name Rigg, right? But let's get to that right now. And then we still have Brian Scott Lipton, Raven Snook, and some more trivia for you. We got some more show to go. But right now, yes, the Tony-nominated set designer of, how come I can't find it? I mean, I will find it, that's for sure. Where is it? Okay, here we go. Let's load that up. From The Skin of Our Teeth at Lincoln Center Theater, Adam Rigg. Wait, no, that's not. Yes, it is.
Well, this special Tony Broadway episode of Dave's Gone By is rigged. I'm telling you, it's rigged. As a matter of fact, we have Adam Rigg with us, the Tony-nominated designer of the revival of Thornton Wilder's The Skin of Our Teeth at Lincoln Center's Vivian Beaumont Theater. This is just the most recent thing this guy has done. It's his first show on Broadway, but let me give you a little background on this Henry Hughes Award design winner, this Lucille Lortel Award winner. He designed Colored Water for the Public Theater not that long ago, Manhattan Class Company's Which Way to the Stage. He was a Drama Desk nominee for Fei-Fu and Her Friends back in 2000, and all over the country. He's worked at Westport Country Playhouse, La Mama, Manhattan Theater Club, Opera Philadelphia, Berkeley Rep, Oslo Rep out in Florida, Mark Taper Forum. Welcome. It's a wonder you even have time to be here, but we're thrilled to have Adam Rigg. Hello, Adam. Welcome.
Hey, how are you doing?
Now, you are in your shop? Literally the costume design shop?
I'm in a costume shop down at Oslo Rep in Florida.
Oh, so what are you working on for them right now?
Douglas Carter Bean and Louis Finn's new musical directed by Mark Brokaw. It's called Hood. We're in our third preview tonight. I don't know. It's just been going for days. So, yeah.
Here's a question for you. You're in previews.
Yeah.
What are you doing there? As a set designer, as opposed to a director, you know?
So, yeah, I'm actually doing sets and costumes for this one because I do both. So yeah, it's basically like the morning calls, because it's a new musical. Our morning rehearsals are a lot of script work because they're just doing cuts and rewrites of score. So I tend to work all day on like pulling new things, refining costumes. Luckily here, because they just have like an incredible staff, I feel like once you get to the theater at a place like this, you're kind of more of like a manager than an artisan, which is really nice. You're kind of like quality control and idea factory. Yeah, but it's fun. It's a fun one. So
now you've been working for well over a decade in theaters all over the country, but was there some sort of Tony nominated for your very first Broadway production, Skin of Our Teeth? Was it different going into a Broadway situation, or having been in institutional theaters, there was money, there was safety, there was stuff? Was it different, or how was it?
I mean, I think my experience is very much like the regional LORT theater, and then like opera, like international opera and opera in the States. And I feel like it's kind of a baby between the two, at least at Lincoln Center Theater, because it is a LORT theater technically, and it's not for profit. I find the like structure and the type of support and how it all functions very similar to the LORT regional thing, but then Broadway's a whole different game, because you just have a different audience, right? Like I think everywhere we go, you're kind of thinking about the audience of the region you're in and like what their taste is, and the theaters are really good about kind of like cluing you in on that. But Broadway,
what does that mean to you as a set designer? Why would a Broadway audience be different from an off-Broadway or a regional to design a set?
Yeah, off-Broadway, it's a lot of like subscription. It's a lot of like it's very community-based. It's very like theater community-based. So you're presenting to a lot of like other actors, other designers. So I think it's not that you can be, it can be a more challenging set. I just think you can kind of like let go sometimes off-Broadway and trust also that people are open to failure. Because you're going to an off-Broadway show. So you're like, not everything's going to be perfect, Whereas Broadway, it's a different. You have those people, plus you have tourists, you have, Lincoln Center Theater subscribers, you have students like crazy. The student response has been crazy to Skin of Our Teeth, and so it's just a broader spectrum of people who I think are a little bit less forgiving, because it's the pinnacle of American theater, So I think everyone's thinking like, I have to see something perfect.
Now, the connection between you and the director of Skin of Our Teeth, Liliana Blaine Cruz, that goes back. How many times have you worked together? And what is it? Is symbiosis there? Does she not have to even tell you what she?
No. No, Liliana's. So I met Liliana my first year of grad school at Yale. She was a second year set designer, or theater director, sorry. And they put the directors from second year into all the first year design courses, and then you design their thesis. And so I designed her thesis. We hit it off really early. It's nice because you meet these directors and you're like having conversations with them about other people's work, which is actually like a fascinating way to like build your vocabulary together. And so we just hit it off, and I've been working with her very consistently since, I mean, through grad school, after grad school, it's constant. But it's funny, like we have a very similar vocabulary and a very similar like impulse, like, which is where we hit it off at first. But Liliana is like such a rigorous human that there's no like symbiosis, like alien twin response, because like if you have that, she's still like, let's go deeper, right? Like, and I'm a total perfectionist in the studio of like the ideas have to be like perfectly clear, like all of these things. And so
yeah, I'm gonna hold that there, because as I said, we did have some trouble with the feed. So let me just I'm gonna have to stop that moving. Okay, hold on. Just have to find where that's playing.
The dramaturgy and the research and do the work.
There we go. And then we weren't going. So hold on. I literally can't find where that's playing. So where are these? Well, that's me. Hold on. Oh no, that's there. I can kill that. Okay, so yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is just after noon Eastern time here on Dave's Gone By in the neighborhood. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. You're watching the 853rd episode. It's our 17th annual Broadway special, and we have just a bit more to do. We're not done yet. We've been here 3 hours. We'll probably be here till about 12:30. I hope you've been enjoying the show. If you have, please email me, davesgoneby@aol.com. Remember the name of the show, Dave's Gone By. There's no apostrophe in the URL, of course. davesgoneby@aol.com. We also post our archives at archive.org on the Dave's Gone By channel. The audio archives are at castbox.fm. We have a channel there. We also have a YouTube channel, and you can watch hour-long excerpts of the program if you're on that, or if you're in Nassau County, and you get Altice Cable on Tuesday nights from 9:30 to 10:30 in the evening. 1-hour excerpts of random episodes of Dave's Gone By on Channel 20. All different ways to enjoy this program, Dave's Gone By. Well, we've been enjoying hearing from so many different folks. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I would apologize for, except I really tried. You know, Broadway, the key word this year was diversity. The idea of giving lots of different people of genders, ethnicities, races, backgrounds, their more moments in the spotlight than they ever had. And I was hoping to, I wanted to do on this show to echo that a bit, as opposed to a lot of, middle-aged white Jewish people, some of them gay, but yeah, a lot to choose. Not as many women as I hoped, people of color. I will say I tried. There were people that I wanted to be on the program, and either they were out of town or I didn't hear back from them. So if you're going, oh, yes, another white talking point head person, sorry, but we tried. I'll try harder next time. But the people that we do have, that we did get on this program, we're very, very proud to enjoy. And coming up next is a writer, and she is a woman. Yay, her name is Rubin Snook, and she's been at this for a bunch of years now. She is currently the editor of Theater Development Fund's site called TDF Stages. You can also find her writing her theater reviews in Time Out New York. I am talking about, let me see if I can get this up here, talking about, as I said, Rubin Snook. So let me once again share my screen so we can watch Rubin. On this special Broadway Tony show, we have a very special guest and a brand new person in the neighborhood. She is a theater critic. She is the editor of TDF Stages. She also has written for many years for Time Out New York, and she is, like I, a voter, like me, like I,
She's a voter for the Drama Desk, and she is Raven Snook. Delighted to have you in the neighborhood. Let me ask you, in fact, first off, since you're new here, was it exciting to be back in the theater, or was it just like, oh, a year and a half has gone by and it feels absolutely normal?
It was one of those things where it was exciting to be back, obviously, but in terms of feeling the hiatus, time lost all meaning. So when I was back going to 3, 4, 5 shows a week, it wasn't like I had a year and a half off. After about, I'd say, maybe a month, I felt like I'd never had a break at all. So exciting, yes, but also had that kind of grind feel to it, which is good and bad. I mean, people say, they play me little tiny violins when I complain about going to the theater all the time. But, it takes a lot of energy to engage in in-person theater in a way that, TV and virtual theater and movies do not. So it can get pretty tiring.
And also for people like us, we're not just picking and choosing. We're not saying, oh, I want to see this play this week, this musical 3 weeks from now. It's like, yeah, I'm seeing this. I have to see this. I don't want to see it, but I got to see it. That's our lives too,
Yeah. And then, yes. And the fact that you have to really, sometimes I'm just seeing things for pleasure or because I feel like I'm a completist and I want to see them. But when you're in there and you're going to be writing about it, you're in there with your brain working. You can't zone out. I mean, you're at work. So it does take a fair amount of energy.
I hope you won't consider this work, but we're going to put you
No, this is fun.
Oh, good. This category, and you're excited about this category, you told me, because there's some strong opinions all about featured actor in a play. I'll give you the nominees. They're Alfie Allen in Hangman, Chuck Cooper, Trouble in Mind, Jesse Tyler Ferguson in Take Me Out, Ron Cephas Jones in the play Clydes, Michael Oberholzer in Take Me Out, and a third person from Take Me Out, Jesse Williams. Raven Snook, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's one of the two acting categories where you have 3 people from the same show going up against each other. You have the same situation in Best Lead Actor in a Play for the Lehman Trilogy. Here it's Take Me Out. And I think that conventional wisdom says that Jesse Tyler Ferguson will probably win. I mean, it was a very, very well-reviewed revival. He is beloved by the theater community, and he's one of those people who really made good, right? I remember seeing him in On the Town in 1999, I think it was, the George C. Wolfe On the Town. And this is long before Modern Family, long before he'd gone to Hollywood. And I think people just love him so much. They love that he's come back and done Shakespeare in the Park and that he's done Broadway. This is his first Tony nomination. And I think people, and it's a great part. It's funny. Dennis O'Hare won for the same part in the original production of Take Me Out. So normally when you have 3 people from one show competing against each other, you think they're going to cancel each other out. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I mean, Jesse Tyler Ferguson is a much bigger name in the theater community than the other 2. Jesse Williams, well, I think he did a lot with the part. I have my issues with this particular part. Huh? Yes, part. When I'm talking about a particular part, I'm not talking about that particular part. I had mine in a yonder. I was not taking photos. He is a lovely man, but I was looking at his performance, not at his part. And yes. And he did very well, I thought, with a part that is this time around, seeing Take Me Out, I felt was extremely underwritten. And I thought he brought a lot to it, but I don't think it's the kind of part that one wins a Tony for. And I think, and I feel terrible because you pronounce the name so fluidly, and I'm going to kill Michael Oberholzer's last name. I hope I'm getting it right. I thought he was terrific. He made, a racist, violent man sympathetic. I also think we're in a place where that's not getting the Tony. It's getting a lot of, but I really don't think somebody's going to be like, and let's give him the Tony. So I do. Well, I mean, here's an example. Sam Rockwell, not to go to another category, but he won for that type of role in a way, an Oscar for 3 billboards outside. Yeah. So. But I think we're in a different place now where even if people respect the work, we're not going to give it the award. I mean, we'll see. And I think he has a great future. I'm really excited to see where that actor goes next, because to be honest, I was unfamiliar with his work and I thought he was great. So yes, I think Jesse Tyler Ferguson will win. That said, if I were choosing, And I thought Jesse Tyler Ferguson was great. I say his full name just so people know I'm not talking about Jesse Williams. I would give it to Chuck Cooper. I think about that monologue he had in the second act frequently. Here he was in this show, Trouble in Mind by Alice Childress. It was supposed to go on Broadway in 1955. It didn't go on Broadway until 2021. Playing a Black actor who is a working Black actor who's always just gotten by, kind of doing what he's told and being nice no matter what. And he tells this devastating monologue about witnessing a lynching. It's the kind of thing that I might think about on my deathbed. When my life flashes before me and my life in the theater, that is a moment I will never forget. And I remember thinking when I saw it, oh my God, he's got the Tony. And now I'm not so sure. Now he has a Tony already, but it was for The Life, which was, I happen to love The Life. I did not get to see it when they did it at Encores this past season. I missed it. But I remember Chuck Cooper in that, but that was a musical. And it really says something that he's now been nominated for this dramatic role. And, he's been doing great dramatic work. He's been doing Shakespeare in the Park. He's not just a musical theater actor, but I think that's what people think of him for. So yeah, I would love to see him. I don't know if I'd call it an upset. I feel like if anyone else in that category is going to win, it's going to be him. But I do think it'll be Jesse Tyler Ferguson. As for the last two nominees, Ron Cephas Jones, we love this man. I remember this man do Prospero in The Tempest at Classical Theater of Harlem before he went on TV and won some Emmys, This is a man who's been around forever, been doing incredible work. He underwent a lung transplant. You probably heard about that. There were articles about it. He thought he was never going to work in theater again. He didn't think he'd have the stamina. That happened during COVID. I don't think because of COVID. It just happened during that time. And, so it was really such an amazing comeback. He seemed completely robust and like himself. But, and I loved Clyde's. It was a lot of fun, but I don't think that's the role that he's going to win the Tony for. And full disclosure, I did not see the Broadway production of Hangman. I only missed 2 Broadway shows this season. I missed Hangman and I missed Diana because I watched that on Netflix. So. But I don't think anyone thinks he's truly a contender. Yeah. I don't think anybody thinks Alfie Allen is a contender.
Let me ask you, Raven Snook, as far as, now, you, as you said, will remember that monologue by Chuck Cooper forever. Was there another show this year, on, off, or anywhere, that is up there? That was your favorite thing of the season, bar none?
I feel like, it's funny, some people have said to me, I was disappointed this season. And I kept thinking, well, I wasn't disappointed in Broadway this season. There were things I liked, there were things I didn't like. But I think off Broadway, I saw so much exciting work, so much work that just I will never forget. And the one that comes to mind is Oratorio for Living Things, the Heather Christian Oratorio. It sounds, it's sort of this genre-defying piece that Ars Nova did down at their new space, the Greenwich House, which they took over. It was supposed to open before the pandemic. I was supposed to review it for Time Out before the pandemic. The week, it's not the week, the month. It was coming out that March of 2020. And, I waited for it for 2 years, and I feel so honored that I got to go back and see it and review it. It was the kind of work that deepened because of the pandemic. It's hard to explain, but the short version is that it's an oratorio with a diverse cast of performers singing about time and how we experience time and about the creation of the universe and about really just life. That's what Oratorio for Living Things. There's some sections in Latin. There's some sections where you can't understand what anyone's singing because they're all overlapping. Just experiencing it, it's the kind of thing you must experience, and you'll get something different out of it every single time. Sometimes they're singing about memories that sound very specific and very personal, and other times they're singing about the Big Bang. And it's the kind of show that it kept extending, and the reviews were absolutely rapturous, not just from me, but everyone. But it's sad because I don't see something like that on Broadway, and I would love to, but I don't really know. It was an intimate experience where they were literally singing in your face. I don't know how one really accomplishes that on Broadway. So that was my absolute favorite thing this season. Yeah, but did you see it?
No,
I mean, they literally were steps from your face, and during COVID, obviously, that was a bit nerve-wracking in some ways. I mean, it changed how you engaged with the piece. They were right there in front of you. They were masked, they were not. There was a level of trust. And then again, it was about time. And after we all experienced that weirdness of time where a year and a half went by, and sometimes I feel like COVID's been around for a decade. Sometimes it feels like just yesterday. It was sort of delving into that experience of time, how something that happened to you when you were 5 could seem much more vivid than something that happened to you yesterday. I've never seen a piece capture that experience. So that was my absolute favorite thing. But then there were many things I liked.
Also. Well, we certainly liked having Raven Snook with us in the neighborhood on our special show. Be sure to read, of course, TDF Stages. That's the Theater Development Fund site. She writes for Time Out New York, and she is a Drama Desk voter. Those are coming up next week, in fact. Raven Snook, thank you so much for sharing your obvious love of the theater with us today.
Thank you for letting me be very manic on your show.
You're welcome. Anytime, and come back. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Raven Snook there from, the editor of TDF Stages, as part of our 853rd episode of Dave's Gone By, our very special Tony show, our 17th annual one of these, and we've been very thrilled to be bringing all these great people to you. We've got one more guest coming up. I'll tell you who it is in a moment or two, but let's do a little bit more fun business, if you will. We had some trivia questions earlier in the show. I've got a couple more that we'll run through. Again, these are questions that, some of them are for Broadway mavens, some of them are for newcomers, or maybe some people who haven't been to the theater in years. Let's see how you do with some more trivia. For example, Diana, the musical, is just the latest Broadway show to follow the exploits of English royals. For example, in 2015, the Winter Garden Theater played host to a 2-part drama based on a historical novel by Hilary Mantel about the rise of Thomas Cromwell. Name that play. I'll give you a moment or two to think about it. Maybe you read the book, maybe you saw the show. Again, it's the Winter Garden Theater 2015, a 2-part drama, right, like 7 hours long, based on a historical novel by Hilary Mantel, all about the rise of Thomas Cromwell. And the name of the play was Wolf Hall. Anybody remember? It was pretty good. Let's see. Also, another trivia question for the year. Nominated for Best Musical Book, Score, and Lead Actor in a Musical this year is Mr. Saturday Night himself, Billy Crystal, his adaptation of his non-musical movie. Billy Crystal has been in only one other Broadway show his entire career. It was an autobiographical look at his life that premiered in 2004, and he revived it a decade later. What was the name of that solo show? Okay. Even people who are in the theater, people go sometimes critics who see, show after show after show, they're like, wait, yes, of course, it was. So here's one more time the question. Billy Crystal, nominated for a bunch of things for Mr. Saturday Night this year. It's his second time only ever on Broadway. He did one other show, although he did it once and then brought it back 10 years later. What was the name of that autobiographical solo piece? It was called not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 700 Sundays. And it was a wonderful show, by the way. Mr. Saturday Night, I've got to say, is very entertaining, very good. But 700 Sundays was actually quite great. Anyway, a couple more trivia questions for you. Speaking of actors, nominated for lead actor in a play this year is Sam Rockwell, starring as Teach in the current revival of David Mamet's American Buffalo. Which of these actors has not played Teach on Broadway? A. John Leguizamo, B. Robert Duvall, C. John Malkovich. So, American Buffalo's been on Broadway a few times. A bunch of people have played that dynamic character Teach. Who has not? Was it A. John Leguizamo, B. Robert Duvall, or C. John Malkovich? And the answer, and you probably get this if you were listening before to people talking about American Buffalo earlier, the answer is Malkovich. He has done Langford Wilson and Sam Shepard plays in New York, but he hasn't done Mamet in America. He did a play called Bitter Wheat in London back in 2019. It did not get well reviewed, so it didn't cross the river. But Malkovich was not ever, as far as I know, in American Buffalo. Couple more trivia questions, and then we'll get back to our final guest. Nominated for a Best Play Tony this year is Lynn Nottage's comedy drama Clydes. Nottage has already won 2 Pulitzer Prizes for 2 previous plays, one of which played on Broadway in 2017, the other off-Broadway in 2009. Name either of these 2 Pulitzer-winning plays by Lynn Nottage. Yeah, sometimes the recent trivia is harder than the older stuff. So yes, Nottage, who by the way also co-wrote, well, she wrote a play called Intimate Apparel that's turning into a musical, as we said, that was off Broadway this year and will come to Broadway next. But she won and she also wrote the book for the Michael Jackson musical MJ. But she won her Pulitzers for the Broadway show Sweat and the off-Broadway show Ruined. Okay, here comes 2 more questions. Nominated for his choreography of The Music Man is Warren Carlyle, whose Broadway credits stretch back to 2001 when he was associate choreographer on The Producers. But Warren Carlyle's most recent Broadway choreography before Music Man was another classic musical, a revival that starred Kelly O'Hara and Will Chase at Studio 54 in 2019. Name that tuner, which was directed by Scott Ellis for the Roundabout Theater. Okay, so Warren Carlyle, Tony nominee, Broadway choreographer. Okay, so he choreographed another show in 2019. It was at Studio 54 on Broadway, starred Kelly O'Hara and Will Chase under Scott Ellis's direction for the Roundabout Theater. And, oh, I hope you brushed up your Shakespeare, because we're talking about Cole Porter and Bella and Sam Spiewak's Kiss Me, Kate. All right, last trivia question for you on our special Tony show. Nominated for Best Actress in a Play is Ruth Negga, who co-stars opposite Daniel Craig in the Scottish play. Prior to this non-traditional Macbeth, the last Shakespeare revival on Broadway in spring 2019 was also non-traditional, also directed by Sam Gold, and it starred Glenda Jackson. Name that show. Okay, think you got it? So again, prior to this Macbeth, the last Shakespeare revival on Broadway 3 years ago, directed by the same guy, Sam Gold, also in some non-traditional ways, and it starred Glenda Jackson as the title character, and they were also doing some role flipping and gender flipping back then. So it was, we've mentioned this show earlier in the program, King Lear. They didn't turn into Queen Lear, she was King Lear. Okay, that is our Broadway Tony trivia for this 2022 episode of Dave's Gone By's Broadway Tony special. And we feel very special to have one more guest in the neighborhood. His name is Brian Scott Lipton, and you can read his work in theaterpizzazz.com. Theaterpizzazz.com. I'm going to share my screen, and then we will hear from Brian Scott Lipton. If I can just find the, so many things to open up. Where's my, here we go. Share the screen, find the player, open it up, make it large, and here's Brian.
Here on the Total Theater Broadway Tony Show, Dave Lefkowitz talking to someone I've known for a bunch of years now in the theater. He's the critic for citytour.com. You can also read his work in theatermania.com and theaterpizzazz.com. He's Brian Scott Lipton, and he's with us in the Daverhood. First of all, welcome back to the Daverhood. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to reconnect, even if it's virtually. We used to get to do this in person when you lived in New York and when you worked for me, but that was a galaxy a long time ago.
Wait. When did I write for you? When was this?
Yeah, you did.
Where? Remind me, please.
I think when I ran Resident, you wrote for me.
Oh my God, The Resident! Wow.
My first journalism job.
Well, you were a pleasure to be edited by, I have to say, Brian Scott Lipton. And now I hope to return the favor on some level by letting you expound on a category that you care about of the Tony Awards, which is Best Actress in a Play. I'll read them out. It's Gabby Beans in The Skin of Our Teeth, LaChanze in Trouble in Mind, Ruth Negga in Macbeth, Deirdre O'Connell in Dana H., and Mary Louise Parker, How I Learned to Drive. We want to know who you think will win, who you want to win, and your thoughts on all the folks in the category.
Thank you, Dave. So first of all, I want to say that, I'm very pleased as a critic and actually also as a Tony voter, that this is a category of 5 really worthy women. They all belong here. That said, I don't know that this category would have ended up exactly the same if the producers of Skeleton Crew and Clyde's respectively had asked to elevate their leading ladies, Felicia Rashad and Uzo Aduba, both of whom were now nominated in the featured actress category. But I think early on we thought that they would both be put up in this category, and that might have made this a slightly different race. One thing I will also say about this race, and it would have been doubly, or depending on who got replaced, truly true if those ladies had been there, and it goes to that category, is that I think it's so marvelous that we have 3 women of color in this category. Ruth and LaChanze and Gabby. And especially in Ruth's case and in Gabby's case, not for characters that are written for people of color. And I think that's one of the greatest things that has been about the Broadway season that came back. Not only did we have an enormous diversity, and we did plays like Alice Childress's Trouble in Mind, which deserved to be seen, and could have had no better interpreter than LaChanze. Nobody could have done that better. But even better, traditionally white plays like Skin of Our Teeth or Macbeth with women of color in the leading roles.
So that has meant a lot to you, this idea that...
Yes, it was something that got talked a lot about during the pandemic, and that Broadway had to do better, incorporating, especially people of color, into Broadway. Whether or not people of color came in more, frequency, as audiences, that's hard to say. But the fact that they were up there on the stages for all of us to see in so many productions, and Men of Color, of course, in A Strange Loop and Thoughts of a Colored Man, and MJ and so many other productions.
Now, let me ask you, though, I do want to know, so it sounds like LaChanze might be the person you would vote for, or maybe not. Wait, or you're a voter.
I think this is such a great category, and I can't reveal my vote. So all I will say is that, frankly, if any of these women win, I'd be happy. If LaChanze won, especially because she's also a good friend, I'd be really happy. But yes, in going to what I really think will happen, that's a little different. While these 3 women that I've just brought up again, Gabby Beans and Ruth Negga and LaChanze, all give truly marvelous performances, I think this is going to boil down to a 2-way race between the 2 other actresses in this category. One, of course, is Deirdre O'Connell, whose remarkable work in Dana H. many of us were blessed to see first off Broadway when the show was done at the Vineyard, and for which she won a small bucket load worth of awards. For those of you who don't know, it's a true story about the mother of the playwright, Lucas Knopf, and she is lip syncing to Dana, Lucas's mother's actual voice. And what is so remarkable is that it doesn't in any way seem lip synced. It seems completely lived in, and of course she's basically in a chair, and yet everything she does, from her body to her mouth to her face, is so expressive that you really believe you're seeing this woman in front of you.
One of the nice things about Deirdre O'Connell is she's been towing and plowing the Broadway and the off-Broadway and the off-Broadway fields for a couple of decades now. I mean, she was a familiar face, and now suddenly everybody knows who she is. It took so long, and now it's like, oh, Deirdre O'Connell, because of this play. So she might be wrong for it, but maybe Mary Louise Parker might take it for How I Learned to Drive.
Well, yes. So going to that, I do think that at the end of the day, and although some people think it's unusual because Mary Louise won the Tony Award last year in this category for her amazing work in The Sound Inside, I am sort of predicting a two-peat. What she does in How I Learned to Drive, Paula Vogel's incredibly brilliant and incredibly hard to watch in some ways play about child molestation is really of another level. I mean, as most people or some people know, Mary Louise first did this play with David Morse, her co-star, in 1997. And in either way, of course, she was not a teenager. It is a memory play, so it's meant to be acted by somebody clearly older than the protagonist, who we see from the ages basically of 11 to 18. But Mary Louise is, approximately 60 right now, and she is completely believable in these scenes, in all those ages. Physically, it's remarkable. She looks like she hasn't aged in 25 years. But even more, I think she brings even more depth and more pathos to this role than she even did originally. And I was blessed to see the original production.
Now, let me ask you, so you're thinking possibly Mary Louise could take it, but do you have anything? You were talking about a couple of plays where they chose not to, the producers chose to keep the actresses as featured actresses. What about omissions, the snubs, if you will, of Deborah Messing for Birthday Candles, Sarah Jessica Parker for Plaza Suite, anybody else? Do you care? Did it matter?
I don't think anybody per se was snubbed. I will say that I was incredibly impressed with Sarah Jessica Parker's work in Plaza Suite. She proved to be, although I think we knew this, a truly gifted comedian, both physically and verbally, especially her ability to play three different characters in three very different situations over the course of Plaza Suite. But it didn't totally surprise me that the Tony Committee would not necessarily pick somebody in a comedy.
Interesting. Yeah. Now also,
we seem to always sort of favor drama a bit. I know some people also thought as an omission, Emily Davis, who starred in Is This a Room, which ran and rep with day and age. And I do think, giving credit when it's due, she gave a really fabulous performance, admittedly in a play that I was one of the few critics that really didn't like. But, I think some people saw that as an actual snub. And I think whenever you're talking about awards and having been nominated for other awards, it's not so much a snub. There's only so many slots, and that's how this works. But it was an exceptionally good year for actresses. So that's nice to know.
Now, speaking of exceptionally good, we have just another moment or two with Brian Lipton here. I do want to ask, of all the shows that you have seen this year, on or off, or even off Broadway, what was your favorite?
All right, two-part question. Because my favorite really was the Lehman trilogy, which, for a play that runs about 3.5 hours says a lot. But that said, this amazing historical drama about the Lehman brothers, 3 actors playing multiple characters over 200 years. It's not the first time I saw it. I was blessed again to have seen it during its run at the Park Avenue Armory. So in that sense, it was still my favorite production, but I was not seeing it completely fresh. There was one new actor. Otherwise, I would say actually the Broadway revival again, and I'm doing Best Actress in Play. There was no actress in that play, and there's no actress in this one, but the revival of Take Me Out, Richard Greenberg's play about baseball and the coming out of a baseball player. It was just really beautifully done, and I had seen the original many times. And bravo to this cast and to Scott Ellis for directing this really wonderful production. And I'm sorry not having a longer life, but it, limited runs. It's limited runs and it stars. And one of the stars did tell me recently he didn't think he could do it for another week. So
wow, okay.
It's got to be very taxing.
It is not at all taxing to be talking to my former editor, Brian Scott Lipton. Please do read him. He is the main theater critic for citytour.com, and it's City, CITITOR, citytour.com. Plus, he also still writes for theatermania.com and theaterpizzazz.com, so lots of places for you to read the writing of our friend, Brian Scott Lipton. Brian, thank you so much for being with us.
And thank you for having me, and I wish everyone a wonderful Tony night, June 12th. Don't miss it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Don't miss it. It's tomorrow night. The Tonys. They're going to be live at Radio City Music Hall. They're also going to be on Paramount for an early hour of some, I hate to say minor awards, but, the awards that they don't want to make the greater general public sit through in the 3 hours, the 3 full hours that will be on from 8 until 11 Eastern Time, and every time tomorrow night. I've been rallying for this for years, and finally they're doing it. I've talked about this on the show. If you're in California, I imagine all the way across America, I'm assuming, Chicago, wherever, even if there are different time zones, they're actually going to treat it like a sporting event, like the Oscars. It starts when it starts. There's no tape delay. California, probably tune in 5 o'clock in the evening. You can watch the Tonys live on CBS. I don't know why it took years to do that. All those years I was living in Colorado. But now it's live, coast to coast. The Tony Awards coming to you from Radio City. The 75th annual. So it's a pretty big night. Well, we've had a very big and wonderful morning here doing our 853rd episode of Dave's Gone By, the 17th annual Total Theater Broadway show. Let me thank so many people. Gotta thank my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, for creating this backdrop behind me, and also for all her help, not just this week, obviously, but every week when I do Dave's Gone By, the regular program. Gotta thank Rabbi Saul Solomon for his rabbinical reflection. Remember that you can read him and watch him at shalomdammit.com. Let's go in backwards order, sort of. Some of them got a little out of order, but thank all the people who took part in this episode. Brian Scott Lipton of, as he was saying, citytour.com. You can also read him at Theater Pizzazz. Adam Rigg, the set designer. Now, The Skin of Our Teeth closed about 2 weeks ago, but he's doing a whole bunch more stuff all year long, particularly off-Broadway and around the country. Look for him, Adam Rigg. Charlie Gross, watch him and our other friend Leslie Hoban Blake as they co-host Two on the Aisle on the YouTube Two on the Aisle channel. Eva Heinemann, oh, what a delight she was. High Drama is her program, is on Manhattan Neighborhood Network with the episodes also posted on YouTube on her own YouTube channel, Eva Heinemann, and that's 2 N's on the end of her last name. David Gordon, yes, by all means, he is running, essentially, Theater Mania. He's the editor-in-chief. So read everything on Theater Mania, including Zachary Stewart, who is their chief theater critic. We thank them both for being in the neighborhood. Gotta thank also, who else? Raven Snook. Yes, by all means, read her too. And what a delight it was to have her in the neighborhood for the first time. Read TDF Stages and also her writing for Time Out New York. David Sheward, he writes for both culturaldaily.com and theaterlife.com. He also has a blog called The David Desk. David Finkle, he writes for New York Stage Review. Ed Rubin is the senior something editor-at-large for Artez magazine. I didn't realize it was that high up over there. So it's Ed Rubin from Artez, and he's always so much fun to have on the show too. Finally, Joe, and not last but not least, Joe Dziemianowicz. You can read him at NewYorkTheaterGuide.com. He's also in Oxygen and Barron's and on Newsday. He also writes for Newsday a lot. And Bob Cashill. We started the show with him. Read him at PopDose.com. Well, all I can say is I'm thrilled that You know, because for a year and a half, I was like, do I want to go back to the theater? I was trying to, it was all right being home, not schlepping, not taking the train. But as soon as I really started getting back into my old life of running to shows and seeing or trying to see people and trying to recognize my colleagues when all I could see was, you know, this part of their faces, and then sitting through a lot of really good shows, or shows at least that even if I didn't like them that much, they were absolutely worth seeing, right? It's been kind of great, and I'm thrilled to be back in it, and that Broadway's back and off-Broadway's back, and that there's a whole panoply of stuff already on, you know, waiting in the wings for next season 2. Now we have a regular show, a regular Dave's Gone By coming at you for next week, where our guest will be a theater person, Aidan Maloney. Aidan Maloney, and we're delighted, I keep using that word, but it's going to be a really cool thing for us to have her, because her father was Paddy Maloney, the musician, one of the founders, one of the major people in the traditional Irish band, the Chieftains, right? So we had him on only a couple of years ago. He passed away. Aidan Maloney is his daughter, and she is going to be performing at Irish Rep. She's doing a show called Yes, about Molly Bloom in James Joyce's Ulysses. So yes, Aidan Maloney talking to Rabbi Saul next Saturday in the neighborhood. The week after that, we've got Tony Sportiello. He is a playwright. He's also now running or helping run a new off-Broadway theater right on West 45th Street. So he'll be talking about the AMT Theater that is opening in late June. Tony Sportiello. And then we have Gary Morgenstein. He is a playwright and actor. He will be with us on July 2nd. We've got things lined up for a whole month. And then Jen Maxfield. I have her book right here. Jen Maxfield, you might remember her or know her from local news. And she wrote a really good book about being a journalist, a news reporter that, you know, kind of goes into a tragedy, finds 4 minutes of material to write about, but then goes in depth and goes back to interview people that she interviewed 20 years ago when something horrible happened to them or their family, and trying to see how it affected them and how they changed. I think every journalist should read Jen Maxfield's book. It's called More After the Break, and I'll tell you more about her when she arrives in the neighborhood on July 8th. So lots of reasons to stay tuned, to keep watching Dave's Gone By, to check our Facebook page for what's coming up, and our website, davesgoneby.com. Well, let me just pull up our outro music as we finish this 17th annual Total Theater Tony Broadway show. Let me get the spangly hat. I will tell you a profound moment I had yesterday when I was at lunch at work. I went on to YouTube and I found 2 different things, because there's so much theater on YouTube. It's fantastic. Somebody put up footage of the entire A Chorus Line that had to be shot in like 1975. It was the absolute original cast. It's in terrible video condition. It's really murky. It's black and white. It's blurry, and it's flickering all the time. It's hard to watch, although the sound is not bad, which helps. But there it is. Okay, A Chorus Line from 40 years ago, and these people and that show just before the Tony Awards, just following a pandemic that took Broadway away. I was like, wow. And then I also watched the first 10 minutes of Sunday in the Park with George in a year when we lost Stephen Sondheim. And, you know, every time I think about something of Stephen Sondheim, I'm like, and again, you know, watching, everybody, of course, knows the end of the first act of Sunday in the Park, but even watching the beginning of George and Dot and the tree going up, it's just, there's nothing like Broadway. And I will leave you with that. And, Gone By. The overture to Paradise Square. We'll see you next week. in the neighborhood, and we'll see you at the Tonys tomorrow.